legal compliance and victim support, and called for more social workers and increased funding for NPOs assisting victims, pledging intensified oversight and accountability measures. So this will be interesting to see how these plans are implemented within the police stations.
And King Misuzulu Welithini is on the throne, and that's not about to change. In fact, at least at law, it's final and official.
Yes. So South Africa's Constitutional Court has dismissed a bid by several Zulu royals to overturn the recognition of Misuzulu Zulu as king of the Zulu nations, ruling that their application had no reasonable prospects of success. Prince Mbonisi Zulu and others had sought an appeal to appeal an October judgment by the Supreme Court of Appeal, which found that Zulu Royal House's identification of Misuzulu as the king was in line with Zulu customary law. The SCA also ruled that President Cyril Ramaphosa acted lawfully under the Traditional and Khoisan Leadership Act in formally recognizing him. The Constitutional Court's refusal to grant leave to appeal with cost effectively brings the legal challenge to an end. And this is one that we've been following quite closely. So it's safe to say it's the end of the road in that fight.
Yeah. And another story we've been following quite closely is the foot and mouth disease outbreak. And much of the focus in terms of sourcing vaccines, we've been told, has been on Botswana, but this time around, South Africa turning to Argentina.
Yes. So the first batches of high-potency foot and mouth disease vaccines arrived in South Africa from Biogenesis Bargo in Argentina. The initial rollout will prioritize KwaZulu-Natal, parts of Gauteng, the Free State, and the Northwest, with high-risk and border regions to follow under structured vaccination programs. Minister of Agriculture John Steenhuisen said additional shipments are expected in the coming weeks, with more than 5 million doses anticipated in the country by the end of March. The expanded supply will allow authorities to move from targeted outbreak responses to broader suppression of the virus in high-risk areas. During this time, farmers must continue complying with quarantine regulations, movement permits, and strict biosecurity measures. Steenhuisen warned that deliberate non-compliance, including illegal animal movement or concealing infections, will face enforcement actions. A dedicated FMD control center has been established, and from Wednesday, farmers can access a toll-free support line for expert guidance.
All right, Melissa, thank you for that. That's Melissa Puta with the Morning Brief in brief.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
On the weather front, there are two warnings that the Weather Service wants you to be aware of. The first one is a yellow level 5 warning. The yellow level 5 warning is in place over the eastern parts of the Northern Cape, the northern parts of the Eastern Cape, and the extreme western parts of the Free State. That yellow level 5 warning is for severe thunderstorms with heavy downpours that will result in flooding of susceptible roads and low-lying bridges and areas, damaging winds, excessive lightning, and large amounts of small hail that will result in damage to infrastructure and settlements. Then you have a yellow level 2 warning, and that one is in place over the central parts of the Northern Cape, northeastern parts of the Western Cape, southern parts of the Eastern Cape, western interior of the Free State, extreme western parts of the Northwest, southern escarpment of Mpumalanga, as well as most of KwaZulu-Natal, except in the northeast. That yellow level 2 warning is for severe thunderstorms with heavy downpours that will result in localized flooding and damage to infrastructure and settlements, damaging winds, excessive lightning, and large amounts of small hail. The rest of your weather looks like this. Pretoria, Johannesburg, Vereeniging will be partly cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers. Pretoria will be at a minimum of 18 and a maximum of 27. Johannesburg 17 to 24. Vereeniging 17 to 25. Mbombela and Polokwane will be partly cloudy. Mbombela will be at a minimum of 18 and a maximum of 27. Polokwane 19 to 27. Mahikeng, Vryburg, Bloemfontein, Kimberley, and Uppington will be cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers. Mahikeng will be at a minimum of 18 and a maximum of 27. Vryburg 18 to 25. Bloemfontein 17 to 23. Kimberley 18 to 21 and Arlington 20 to 25. Cape Town will be cloudy with morning fog patches, otherwise partly cloudy 19 to 27. George cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers 19 to 24. Gqeberha cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers 19 to 25. Gumpo City 22 to 26 and it will be cloudy with showers and thunder showers. Durban will be partly cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers 22 to 29. Richards Bay partly cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers 22 to 32. And lastly, Pietermaritzburg will have morning fog, otherwise partly cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers 18 to 29.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
23 minutes after 6, the U.S. President Donald Trump has escalated his trade battle with that country's judiciary by raising global import tariffs to 15%, just a day after the U.S. Supreme Court struck down his sweeping trade levies. In a post on Truth Social, Trump said his administration would move quickly to impose new and legally permissible tariffs under a different statute, increasing a previously announced 10% levy to the maximum 15% allowed under Section 122 of the Trade Act of 1974. The temporary measure can last up to 150 days before requiring congressional approval. The move intensifies tensions between the White House and the nation's top court, which ruled 6-3 that Trump exceeded his authority when he used emergency powers to impose broad global tariffs without Congress. Iraj Abedian is a senior economist and a regular commentator on these matters and joins me now for that conversation. Dr. Abedian, good morning and thank you for your time. So there's no relenting, it would seem. It's the ones that he was doing under the emergency powers and wartime regime have been struck down, but it seems Donald Trump is making good on his commitment to tariffs as a policy.
Good morning to our listeners. Good morning to our listeners. Yes, you're right. He's not going to stop. But now that he's been defeated on that ground, he has to use a different blend of tariffs to achieve what he wants to achieve. Because he had two objectives in his tariff war, so to speak. One was to raise revenue for the United States to deal with the balance of payments, as he highlighted. And the second one was a kind of geopolitical weapon to deal with some of his geopolitical adversaries, such as China, etc., etc. So I think now that he has been defeated on a general trade policy, or the use of or weaponization of tariffs in general form, and to us it's also important to know that this is the first American president to use that particular policy. But be as it may, which the importance of it is that as he uses his litigation has to then embed what is possible within the powers of the president and what is not. Obviously, round one, he has been defeated, but he's going to now try a different blend using that 15%. And in the meantime, look for a specific and different kinds of legislations that are in place to achieve what he wants to achieve. For example, there are some specific trade provision or extension of trade provisions that if the United States does not produce certain items, there is a different capacity for the state or for the government, for the president to impose tariff, as opposed to something like steel, which is being produced in the United States. So he's going to now go after specific items on not general blanket 15 or 30 or 50%, but specific items, and there he's got a lot more power.
Is it necessarily good news for countries like South Africa, which were slapped with a 30% baseline tariff as part of those quote-unquote Liberation Day tariffs, or the so-called reciprocal tariffs? So there was that 30% plus anything else in specific sectors. Does that mean that that baseline 30% is gone now?
That is gone, but the issue to us is important in trade. Trade is not a quick thing. It takes time to find partners, establish routes, arrange logistics, etc., etc. So uncertainty and rattling the existing arrangements is bad for everybody, not just for South Africa, for even for the United States, and so on. So on the face of it, it's good. It's better than what we had before. But to the extent that South African exporters have already started finding other avenues, they've started partners, invested, and when I say started, meaning investing time, money, and resources in exploring replacement markets. So in that sense, the fact that it's now gone from 30% to 15% doesn't mean that next month or in 2 months' time, another dispensation may pan out. Therefore, South African exporters will continue investing in alternative markets, and the same is true of Chinese, and the same is true of Indian, etc., etc. So it's good for nobody. Tariff is a lose-lose situation, and we've been there in history, and therefore it's not going to be any different. The fact that the United States relies so heavily on litigation, and litigation takes time, is going to even exacerbate the uncertainty and create further volatility. So we in South Africa now, like all other countries, especially emerging small economies, have to continue diversifying away from the United States, unfortunately, and then look at the items or sectors that has no barriers for us, like the obvious one, rare minerals, or tomato that South Africa, that United States doesn't produce, or anything that does not produce is exempt from it. But anything that we have competition in the United States or with other trade partners of the United States, where South Africa may be ranked lower strategically than them, and this is an issue for us.
What is the emerging picture about the effectiveness of these tariffs? Trump likes to say they've raised, and this is one of his favorite phrases, billions and billions of dollars. But what is the actual picture? What are we gleaning in terms of its impact in the United States, affordability of goods, or indeed raking in the kind of revenue that he's been hoping for?
To list, there's no doubt that the reported figure, $150 billion that he keeps throwing, is real, because that's been banked. What he covers up is what's the cost. This is on the revenue side. What's the cost to the American economy? What's the inflationary pressures? What are the other side of the equation? And that he is silent on it. And nobody yet, because of the uncertainty that we just talked about, if it took 2-3 years to become normal, so to speak, then you can look at the cost. You look at how many jobs were lost in the United States as a result of this, and how much inflationary impact was injected into the economy of the United States that otherwise would not have taken place, and what would have been the cost of that in the United States. So I think the money side of it is easy. The socioeconomic impact is the one that matters for tariff. And tariff is not just a monetary matter, it's a question of economic development, right. It's a question of political certainty and welfare of the nation.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time, Dr. Iraj Abedian, CEO of the Pan-African Investment and Research Services. Let's go to Ann Musa with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, the TRC Cases Inquiry will today hear evidence from former Acting National Director of Public Prosecutions, Dr. Silas Ramaite. He served in the position for 15 years before President Cyril Ramaphosa appointed him to an acting capacity in August 2018. His name was mentioned at the inquiry last week. Suspended Deputy National Police Commissioner Shedrick Sibiya will return to the Matlanga Commission of Inquiry in Pretoria this morning. Commissioners will continue to cross-examine Sibiya on his role in the disbandment of the political Killing Stars team and his alleged ties to suspected criminal kingpin Vusimuzi Cat Matlala. And some community activists in Gauteng have called for increased police visibility in the province. Their call comes ahead of Premier Panyaza Lesufi's State of the Province address today. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Our top story, the protesting around Tembisa side of Ekurhuleni. Multiple routes are blocked, including Andrew Petwe, the main drag to and from Kleurkop. Modderfontein Road linking you between sort of Kleurkop, Tembisa and Rabi Ridge, and up around the hospital, causing some disruption going in and out between Olifantsfontein and Tembisa. So it's quite widespread. Multiple roads closed, multiple backlogs and delays. Make sure you've got plenty of time to get out and get through it all this morning. Other issues, the N12 coming into Joburg, stationary vehicle near Craft Road. So already pushing back a queue in towards Boksburg. Crash on the R24 at the N12 merge running in from Edenvale, very slow. And the Mike 1 already busy, indicator that it's going to be a busy Monday. The Mike 1 sitting from Gold Reef City all the way through to Empire Road territory. Durban's N2 southbound under a bit of pressure this morning from Umgena Road moving through to Spaghetti Junction. That's an early queue. The Queen Nandi Drive option out of Kumashu heading down towards the N2. That's looking quite busy as well. And Cape Town, a fatal crash on Range Road at Stellenbosch Arterial. That's in the Blackheath area, but it's backlogging traffic back into that sort of Wimbledon Road, Range Road area around the Blackheath Industrial. So it's all very slow out that way, negotiating a big overnight crash scene. And busy on the highways with the N1 currently sitting from Kraaifontein all the way down into Sable Road at Century City. That's a whole pile of traffic heading to Cape Town this morning. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, good morning. What a weekend. What a weekend it was, sporting-wise. And I'm pretty sure you'll get to all of it, Zai. But it was going down in Ahmedabad.
It was going down to us. You know, India hadn't lost all tournament. And then South Africa arrived. And man, did we arrive. We didn't just win. We silenced, I think, over 30,000 there in Ahmedabad. So wonderful to see the Proteas doing what they do best. Yeah, they maintained their perfect record, the Proteas, at the T20 World Cup with that commanding 76-run victory over the co-host India in Ahmedabad. The Proteas were in early trouble at 20 for 3, but Deval Brevis and David Miller rebuilt with a 97-run stand, and Miller smashing 63 of 35 balls, while Tristan Stubbs added an unbeaten 44 to lift South Africa to 187 4-7. Marco Jansen then ripped through India with 4 for 22 as India were bowled out for 111. Their first defeat of the tournament. South Africa will next face the West Indies, while India must bounce back against Zimbabwe. Meanwhile, in Bloemfontein, Sunelu starred with the bat and ball as the Proteas women beat Pakistan by 37 runs in the opening ODI at the Mangong Oval. Lewis struck an unbeaten 93, claiming 2 wickets, while Sinalo Jafta celebrated her 50th international with a maiden half-century. Soccer action. Sekhukhune United are through to the Nedbank Cup quarterfinals after a disciplined 1-0 victory over the University of Pretoria at Tuck Stadium. Elsewhere, ABC Motsepe League side Jaxa Spears continued their fairy tale run with a 1-0 win over Vasco da Gama. In England, Liverpool leaving it late, very late, with Alexis McAllister scoring in the 97th minute to seal a dramatic 1-0 win over Nottingham Forest, and Arsenal powering past Tottenham 4-1, and it takes the Gunners 5 points clear at the top. And rugby, the Bulls are preparing for life after Kurtley Arendse. They're securing Dylan Mart from the Griquas ahead of next season. Arendse departs for Japan in June, while Sharks utility back Hakeem Kunene is also set to join the Pretoria outfit. And finally, golf. South Africa's Casey Jarvis claimed his maiden DP World Tour title in spectacular fashion, eagling the final hole to win the magical Kenya Open in Nairobi. The 22-year-old fired a closing 62 to finish 3 shots clear. That's your sport on the morning brief. Check back. We'll be teeing off again at the top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
The business update on SAFM.
Hey, Dowling, good morning to you. For the first update of the week, the yo-yoing of tariffs, up and down they go.
You're absolutely right, Thulasizwe. Morning. You just never know what to expect when it comes to President Donald Trump. This time around, he said he'll be raising global tariffs to 15% from 10%. This move comes just after the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that he had exceeded his authority in imposing levies. Now, in a 6-3 decision, the court found that Trump had wrongly relied on the International Emergency Economic Powers Act of 1977, which allows the president to act during a genuine national emergency. Now, the justices held that trade deficits did not meet the threshold required under the law, effectively invalidating the broad tariffs introduced under the statute. While the ruling strikes out the liberation tariffs, the sector-specific tariffs still remain. Now, the court's ruling strikes out, in particular, that 30% tariff on certain South African imports. Trump responded by, of course, invoking that Section 122 of the Trade Act of 1974 to impose a 10% tariff, later raising it to 15%. The measure can remain in place for 150 days without congressional approval. Now, for South Africa, as mentioned, the decision brings short-term relief, but continued policy uncertainty remains. As you mentioned, that yo-yoing that the president does, we just never know what to expect.
The yo-yo effect of tariffs. Tell me about Northam securing 2 billion rand. You're saying they want to fast-track renewable energy drive. Is this Northam, the miner, the Northam Platinum?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Northern Platinum. It speaks to what we were talking about last week, where we are seeing more and more miners trying to get off the grid, the Eskom grid. Northern Platinum this time around securing an additional 2 billion rands in funding for its renewable energy program, increasing its revolving credit facility to 13.3 billion rands from 11.3 billion rands. Now, the funding will accelerate the construction of solar plants and battery storage at its Mpumalanga and Limpopo mine sites. The company aims for renewables to supply more than 70% of its total energy needs by 2030, reducing reliance on the national grid, lowering power costs, and improving its environmental footprint. Now, rising electricity tariffs have made energy one of the largest cost pressures for South African miners. The company's CFO, Alet Kutsia, said the expanded facility provides the flexibility to grow renewable capacity, enhance energy security, and reduce greenhouse gas emissions without affecting other capital projects.
Let's recap then, Ndawling, at the start of the week, how we closed last week and how we are starting in the markets today.
Stateside, markets closed last week on a positive note, despite that Supreme Court ruling. Now, we saw the Nasdaq leading the gains, up 0.9%. Traders were assessing the latest GDP and PCE print. Growth slowed to 1.4% in the fourth quarter, mainly on the back of the government shutdown, while personal consumption expenditure came in hotter than expected. Both prints point to a less dovish Fed, with markets pushing back rate cut bets. On the local front, the JSE also closing last week in the green, still being boosted by upbeat precious metal prices. This saw the all share closing almost 1% higher. Meanwhile, in currency markets, the rand retracing some of its losses, starting the week on a good note. It's at 16.02 to the dollar, 21.65 to the pound, and 18.93 to the euro. Then over in commodities, oil remains range bound, still trading just under that $70 a barrel mark. Investors on that front still eyeing the developments between Iran and the US. Lastly, in Asia, trade back online. Investors on that front assessing the tariff moves. Markets on that front mixed.
All right, Ndawling, thank you for that. That's the first update from Ndawling. Look out for more of her insights in the second hour of the show, just after 7:30.
Africa Update on SAFM.
And for that, standing by is Sipho Mantula. Advocate Sipho Mantula, good morning to you. Let's start with news to do with Colonel Michael Randrianirina meeting President Vladimir Putin.
Refreshing morning, Thulas and Jumbo Africa to the listeners. Thulas, you will recall that this is the third country that the president of Madagascar is visiting. He has started at the United Arab Emirates, passing through South Africa, and now in Moscow. Now, the meeting in Moscow, Thulas, is to look at areas of engagement on agriculture energy, medicine, healthcare, as well as education. So you will even recall that Madagascar and Moscow, Thulas, they've been having this diplomatic affair since 1972, Thulas. So this is not for the first time we see this relation between the island of Madagascar and Russia. They've been engaging since 1972, hence we have an embassy of Madagascar in Moscow, and vis-a-vis you have an embassy of Russia in Antananarivo. Now this meeting is very important also on military cooperation between the two countries Thulas post the military coup that happened in October. So they've met Thulas, Madagascar and Russia.
Also meeting is M7 and the leader of the RSF in Sudan.
Museveni has been engaging Thulas. You recall last month he met with the SADC-AU mediation on the DRC. Now he's engaging on North Sudan. Meeting with Dagalo at the State House. Others are calling it a high-level talks on the current conflict that is in Sudan, Thulas. And this meeting, it was very important because Museveni had to share his own experience on the conflict. You remember Museveni was close to the South Sudan late President Don Garang, but also he knew also people like Bashir. So he had to raise the issue of dialogue, he has to raise the issue of national unity, and to raise the issue that there is a need, because since 2023 there's been a conflict in the north part of Sudan, that it is important both Dagalo, General Buran, to engage to us because we have humanitarian and institutional challenges that are facing North Sudan, and that's where the issue of peaceful resolution, what Museveni was emphasizing to General Dagalo, who was in Kampala over the weekend.
So recently you had the Berlin Security Summit in Europe, and now you have the second Kigali Security Summit. And it has some interesting dynamics, doesn't it, with the United States and Israel and all of that in the mix.
Indeed, Thulas, this is the second one, as you have said, the International Security Conference. And as you said, you had the Munich Conference, and we have your Doha Security Conference, and now we are seeing this one of Kigali that started in 2025. Interestingly, Thulas, they are focusing on what they're calling aligning the U.S., Israel, Africa, and the new Middle East. Now, in this meeting, very important to note that the U.S., Thulas, is there to push its national interest. And as they are saying, they are looking also at the role of all these partners as you look at how Israel, U.S., Rwanda, they are all caught up in conflicts. Rwanda is caught up in a conflict with the DRC. Israel is caught up with the Middle East. And the U.S. is moving around the global south as well as Latin America. So this meeting, it was all about also probably for the U.S. to push its board of peace that they are trying to undermine the UN security processes or of the peacekeeping tools. And as I said, Kigali might be moving towards listening to Israel, listening to the U.S. This is a counter to us, like I've said to you before. We need an African forum rather than focusing on the interest of the foreign powers. Because that's where you find that Munich, there was a plot by the U.S., they still go to even Rwanda, still raising their alignment of their national interest with Israel, as well as what they called the new Middle East.
Yeah, and the theme is aligning the United States, Israel, Africa, and the new Middle East. Fascinating. Lastly, Sipho, your historical archive. Take me to 22 February 1940.
Thulas will have been 86 years, but he passed away in 2021. We don't hardly talk about this man, and this man suffered a lot. Was born in Pilgrim Rest in Mpumalanga, was born and raised also around the area of Gauteng, Davidson, Benoni. He was a PAC, former Secretary of Foreign Affairs. He was jailed after he came back from Maseru. He was one of the APLA commanders. We are talking about Johnson Philip Mlambo. When you think of what he went through to us, he was buried alive to his neck and urinated on. This was the ill treatment that the apartheid government could do to this man. The man who addressed both the OAU, the United Nations, the Commonwealth, the non-alignment movement. And after 1994, when the PAC got few seats in parliament, as you recall, there was only 5 seats. He didn't go to parliament. Instead, he wanted to focus on the integration of the APLA forces in the SANDF, the new South African National Defence Force. So we hardly remember this man, Johnson Philip Mlambo. You recall he's also related to Justice Dustin Mlambo Thulas. There's nothing new there. They are related with this man that we are remembering, who was inspired by Josiah Mazunya, inspired by Robert Mangaliso Sobukwe, as this week also will be focusing on Professor Mangaliso Robert Sobukwe. Asante sana Thulas, as was leading the True Conversation SAFM.
Sipho, thank you for that. That's Sipho Mantula there with the Africa Update and, of course, his ever-popular historical archive.
When music meets nature, something unforgettable happens. Symphony by the Water, a world-class live music experience set against the breathtaking beauty of Midmar Dam, featuring the KZN Philharmonic Orchestra, Spogazi, the Black Lapels, Saturday, the 7th of March, 2026. Day tickets from $150, evening tickets from $350. Tickets available at WebTicket and Pick and Pay. Symphony by the Waters, where sound flows.
This February, love the truth, no matter how unsettling it is. They were called accidents, a slip, a fall, a tragic mistake. But what if they weren't? Fatal fall, murder or accident investigates suspicious deaths from balconies, staircases and cliffs, where one question refuses to go away. Did someone push them? Through forensic science and haunting testimony, the truth is uncovered. Fatal fall, murder or accident. Tuesdays 6 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
In 2025, Liberty paid out 48 million rand in education cover claims to 755 families, meaning...
So many kids still went to school?
Correct.
Even when the dog ate their homework?
Yep.
What if it rained so hard that even fish needed raincoats?
School's still on.
But why?
Because there's no negotiation when it comes to protecting your child's tomorrow. Even if you become disabled or pass away, Liberty, in it with you. Liberty Group Limited, a licensed life insurer and authorized FSP and part of the Standard Bank Group. T's and C's, risks and limitations apply.
Looking to connect, collaborate, and unlock new opportunities across the continent? Look no further. South African Tourism proudly presents Meetings Africa 2026. Proudly hosted by South African Tourism, Meetings Africa 2026 brings together industry leaders, innovators, and decision makers shaping the future of African business events. This year is extra special. We are celebrating 20 years of driving partnerships and powering growth across Africa. Meetings Africa 2026, 20 years of connecting Africa to the world.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning, Thulas. Just before you run off, every morning, Sipho Mantula comes on, does the Africa report, Africa update, which we really love.
Yes.
And he signs off with this a couple of words, and I've never known what it means. It's asanda or something like that.
Asante
and then I
sana.
heard, and then I heard somebody else use that this morning as well, and thought, okay, it must be a popular signing off. It must be a popular goodbye or greeting or whatever it is. What does it mean?
I thought you were going to throw. Come on, Rob, give me a curveball, a real one. That one is easy.
No, it's a curveball for me. You could throw that one at me many times and I'd miss it every time. I don't know what it means. I've never heard it apart from Sipho.
It's Kiswahili. So asante means thank you. Asante sana is thank you very much.
Asante sana.
In Kiswahili, yes. Asante
Brilliant.
sana.
Asante sana.
Yes, is that going to be a new sign-off?
It may well be, but I won't be able to do it as well as Sipho, so back-to-back might be a problem. But thank you. I just, it was one of those things, and if you don't ask, you don't learn, do you?
Absolutely.
Simple as that. All right. Thank you. To the roads we go. The Mike 1 indicator of how much volume there is around Joburg this morning is pretty heavily backed up. It's sitting currently from around Gold Reef City all the way up to around Oxford Road in Parktown. The rest of the highway network also just really busy. It's a busy back to work Monday. The N12 well from Snake Road through to Rondebolt Road. So that's Benoni, Boxburg. And then you've got a breakdown around Craft Road. So there's another queue. Also, crash coming in on the R24 from the airport at the N12 merge, going slowly into Gililu's interchange. A reminder that Tembisa is under pressure this morning. It's a pretty widespread, coordinated protest and shutdown, if you like. Tembisa, Rabi Ridge, Ebony Park, up through towards the exits towards Olifantsfontein and Clayville. So multiple routes are blocked. Just give yourself extra time to get through it all, get through the traffic, get through the diverts. It's going to be a tough morning across that Tembisa area. Pretoria side, we've got the lights out. Solomon Mslangu and Delphi coming out of Pretoria East on your way going westbound towards Castlefontein. That's all very slow going. Durban, Queen Nandi Drive, very slow this in Kumashi. That's a bit of a different sort of traffic pattern there. And Cape Town, talking about high volumes and noticeable sort of change-ups in traffic patterns. We've been alluding to that since very early this morning. Give you an idea of how busy it is. If you're coming in on the N1, it's already slow from Kraaifontein all the way through to about the Kuiberg interchange. The Mike 5 full of traffic from Southfield up to Maitland. The N2's heavy at Khayelitsha, then from the airport right through to Hospital Bend. And the M3 is pretty extreme as well. You pick up a queue between Tukai and Constantia, and you sit all the way up Wynberg Hill and down into Paradise Road Junction. A busy Monday all across the board. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This February, fall in love with friendships that feel like family. Old bonds, new beginnings, and chapters that remind us why love, in all its forms, matters. The story comes full circle in The Best Man, the final chapters, where love, loyalty, and life collide one last time. Because some stories stay with you long after the final scene. The Best Man, the final chapters, weeknights 7 p.m. only on S3 of Beloved.
All Scholar transport operators are required to comply with the following mandatory requirements: a valid operating license authorizing the operator to transport passengers on the specified route, a valid operator disc, which must be clearly displayed on the windscreen next to the vehicle license disc, a valid vehicle registration with a current roadworthy certificate confirming that the vehicle is fit, safe, and legally permitted to operate on public roads. Compliance must be reflected on the vehicle license disc. Compliance with these requirements is non-negotiable and is enforced to safeguard the lives of learners and all road users. Issued by the National Department of Transport.
This February, fall in love with the journey. No phones, no flights, just determination, connection, and the open road. From breathtaking landscapes to unexpected challenges. Race Across the World is back. Bigger, bolder, and more emotional than ever. Because sometimes the best way to find yourself is to travel together. Race Across the World Season 4, Thursdays at 6 p.m. only on S3. Open up. S3.
You are listening to The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
5 minutes to 7 on this Monday. Let's give you an update on the rescue efforts at the Ekapa Minerals joint shaft mine in Kimberley, where hope, we are told, is fading for 5 miners trapped nearly 890 meters underground. Despite days of intensive operations following last Tuesday's catastrophic mud rush, rescuers have yet to find any signs of life. Cameras were lowered into the flooded shaft and they've revealed only water and mud with no evidence of survivable conditions. Let's speak to Tebogo Msimanga, SABC News reporter based in the Northern Cape and has been tracking that story. Tebogo, good morning. So it seems that there's a shift in the story, isn't there? A shift that's starting to talk in a sense, in a tone that many of the families were hoping we don't get to talk about that hope is fading of finding this man alive.
Good morning to Thulasizwe and good morning to the SAFM listeners. Yes, indeed, the search for the trapped miners underground at Ekapa Minerals is continuing, but the mood amongst families and the broader community has grown increasingly somber with each day passing. Remember that since last week Tuesday, the efforts have been focusing on reaching the affected areas, but it's impossible. Remember that on Friday, Minister of Minerals, Gwena Mantashe, was here, but they went underground. But he said they could only reach up until 870 meters. They could not go beyond that. And he said over and over again that they They must find the bodies, but the families should not cling on hope that the miners are alive. And on Saturday, in a media statement issued by Ekapa Minerals, it confirmed that the efforts remain underway to pump the water from the flooded section. And I think it's important to mention that when Minister was here, he said it's important that the experts from geoscience are brought in so that they can ascertain what really caused this mud rush, because he says nobody has information for sure now where the trap miners are at, because he was saying everyone is estimating the exact location, but he said it's important that those people come here in Kimberley so that they can go underground to ascertain where the bodies might be at. And the company said engagements with affected families remain ongoing and they are receiving counseling. And we spoke to one family, the wife of one of the miners who are trapped underground, and she said when days are passing, she used to cling on hope for the past 4 days, but now she has lost hope. All she wants now, she said, is that her husband is found so that, they can continue to see what is happening. Because she said off the record that, I know that there's no life, but what I want now is my husband. I want my husband's body so that I can bury him.
Yeah. Say a bit more about the families, Tebogo, because one can only imagine their anguish. I read elsewhere that there've been elements of criticism of the company and the mine communicating and keeping families updated. Is that a theme that's coming through?
When this incident happened on Tuesday, I managed to speak to one family that said to me, firstly, I was banned to speak to the media because they said after this incident, the mine called them and then they took them to a safe house where they were given counseling. But she's going through a lot, and to an extent, she's blaming the mine to say, had they taken precautionary measures, she believes this thing would have been avoidable. But like I said, all they want now is just for the bodies to be retrieved so that they can lay this man to their final resting place, because they say it's obvious that there's no chance of life, because today is the 6th day since they have been trapped underground. Thulasizwe.
And from our vantage point, Tebogo, how much are we able to see of the attempts at pumping out water? Because it seems, from my understanding of the story, that really is the problem, pumping out as much water as possible, as much mud as possible to be able to get to these people.
We are not allowed to go inside the mine. The only closest place we could go to was just 5 meters just outside, from outside the gate when minister was here, because the mine said to us, we can only take shots of the minister, but we are not allowed anywhere. We are not allowed anywhere. Even when we are when we are outside, they don't want us to be anywhere the mine, because they say they will only give us information when it's available. But for now, we are just waiting and hoping.
Sure, what a difficult story. Thank you for that. Tebogo Msimanga, SABC News reporter based in the Northern Cape, watching the rescue efforts at Ekapa Minerals. Brings us to 7 a.m. Let's go straight to N. Musa, standing by with the latest news.
Outsurance is in the business of saving you money on your car insurance premium. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754.
In our top stories, TRC inquiry to hear testimony from former Acting National Director of Public Prosecutions, and U.S. State Department issues a travel warning to citizens in Mexico. Good morning. The TRC Cases Inquiry will today hear evidence from former Acting National Director of Public Prosecutions, Dr. Silas Ramaite. He served as the deputy for 15 years before President Cyril Ramaphosa appointed him to an acting capacity in August 2018. His name was mentioned last week. It was in connection with an allegation that the then President Thabo Mbeki had blocked the imminent arrest of an accused in the poisoning of anti-apartheid activist Reverend Frank Chikane. Suspended Deputy National Police Commissioner Shedrick Sibiya will return to the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry in Pretoria this morning. Commissioners will continue to cross-examine Sibiya on his role in the disbandment of the political killings task team and his alleged ties to suspected criminal kingpin Vuzimuzi Cat Matlala. Sibahle Mota reports.
General Sibiya is expected to field tough questions on his relationship with Matlala. Testimony before the Madlanga Commission states that Sibiya financially benefited from his relationship with Matlala. It has been alleged that Sibiya received at least 2 million rands from Matlala for a property venture. It has also been alleged that General Sibiya also received 300,000 rands from Matlala, which was a donation for his son's wedding. Sibiya has testified before the Madlanga Commission that he first met Matlala when he came to his office to complain about his Medicare 24 contract.
Some community activists in Gauteng have called for increased police visibility. Their call comes ahead of Premier Panyaza Lesufi's State of the Province address today. Recent crime stats revealed a rise in murder and carjacking rates, with Gauteng and the Western Cape identified as the country's hotspots. Community activist Tiane Pakedi.
We cannot even walk around freely because of the guns that is happening in our community. And the most important part that should happen, that the president should implement, is to make sure that law enforcement agency is always around Mamelodi on the ground.
The recent gold rush at the Gugulethu informal settlement in Springs, east of Johannesburg, has highlighted severe financial hardships among poor community. Stats SA's latest figures indicate unemployment in Gauteng stands at 33%. Residents of the informal settlements say they are living in poverty, which results from joblessness.
He says he came this side 2 years ago. He has 2 kids. Hence, he decided to start a small sewing business. Although it is slow, it makes a difference.
Usually, I collect bottles and tins for a living, but I saw people digging holes saying there's gold. That is how I joined in.
And finally, the U.S. State Department has issued a travel alert urging the country's citizens to shelter in several locations across Mexico. This follows widespread violence in many Mexican cities after armed forces killed the head of the Jalisco New Generation cartel yesterday. Showen Price Peace reports.
The killing of Nemesio Ruben Oseguera Cervantes, who was also known as El Mencho, has set off widespread violence in regions controlled by the cartel, with videos shared on social media showing plumes of smoke across the resort town of Puerto Vallarta, a popular holiday destination. Major airlines have suspended flights into the region, while U.S. citizens have been told to shelter in place until further notice in several areas, including Puerto Vallarta, Chapala and Guadalajara. The state of Jalisco is the base of a cartel accused of trafficking massive quantities of drugs, including fentanyl, into the United States.
Recapping the top story, the TRC cases inquiry will today hear evidence from former Acting National Director of Public Prosecutions, Dr. Silas Ramaite. He served as the deputy for 15 years before President Cyril Ramaphosa appointed him to an acting capacity in August of 2018. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754.
This February, Outsurance's love language is saving you money on your car insurance. Like 35-year-old Becca, who saves an unbelievable 500 Rand on her 2022 Volkswagen T-Cross. Get a quote now, and if Outsurance can't save you money, ask for 500 Rand or 1,500 Rand if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Why wait? SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Outsurance, licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
It's a very good morning to you in your SFM Sports headlines. Cricket, South Africa still unbeaten at the T20 World Cup after crushing the host India by 76 runs. And we also bring you soccer action with the quarterfinal of the Nedbank Cup locked in. Sekhukhune United, the last team through. We'll have the details at around 7:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. It's a very busy, high volume back to work Monday. You can see that all over. Big traffic. Give you an idea of that. If you come into Joburg from the south, you're going to sit on that Mike 1 highway from sort of on Monday all the way through Crown and right through to Oxford Road in Parktown. That's a lot more extreme than it normally would be. The Malabongwe run from North Riding through the N1 highway down to Straydon Park. Some big traffic there if you're on your way to Randburg. N12 is backed up leaving Benoni from Snake Road right through to Rondebolt. And then there's a breakdown around Craft Road. So that's a second queue as you come in from that Jet Park area once you've emerged from that Benoni Boxburg snarler. The N1 through Midrand, pretty heavy today, just south of John Foster. You're going to sit all the way down to Olifantsfontein Road. Olifantsfontein Road is a mess again because of the lack of traffic lights around the highway. Pretoria, Sefako, Makato, all backed up at the N1 highway both ways. That could be some traffic light issues out there. Of an unusual queue as well. Durban side, the N2 North sitting from the M7 through to Westwood Mall into the roadworks. Coming out of Chatsworth, Higginson Highway is heavy out towards Mobeni. And Cape Town, just again, a lot of volume. The M1 busy from Kryfontein all the way through to Kuba. Get a change. M5's at Southfield, Plumstead up towards Maitland. And the N2 inbound, the heaviest traffic there from the airport all the way through to Hospital Ben. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
8 minutes after 7. Welcome to the second hour of the Morning Brief on SAFM 104 to 107. And as always, live on all of our digital platforms, safm.co.za, on the SAFM YouTube channel, that is SAFM Radio, as well as on Facebook and X. We are at SAFM Radio. Coming up in the next half hour, we'll try and squeeze in as much as possible, as we sometimes do within this half hour. We want to take you to Tembisa and give you an update on what has been billed as a shutdown by members of the community in and around Tembisa. We'll try and get to the bottom of what's behind their grievances and how the protest is playing itself out. So in the next few minutes, we'll give you an update coming through from Tembisa. Then immediately after that, we talk to Ricardo Teixeira, Defense and National Security Analyst. We are talking about the 4 of the 17 people that have just recently returned from Ukraine, from the fighting between Russia and Ukraine, and what the implications are now that they are back in the country. The now what part of the story is what Ricardo Teixeira will talk to after we get you that update coming through from Tembisa. And then lastly, within this half hour, we'll talk to the Action SA mayoral candidate for Johannesburg, Herman Mashaba. He will outline what his ideas and his thinking is about the path ahead, the path to possible victory that perhaps he'll be hoping for, and also just the path to turning the city of Johannesburg around, and what kind of competition he anticipates from other candidates. The ANC yet to announce its mayoral candidate for the city of Johannesburg, but we know that the DA will be fielding Helen Zille. So we'll talk to Herman Mashaba and talk to him about what his thinking is about the lay of the land as far as the competition is concerned. Your calls will complete the conversation. The number to dial 086 000 2032 086 000 2032. Your WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107. Let's get into it. The second hour of the Morning Brief on this Monday starts now.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, unfair blacklisting, or an uncontested divorce, Clientele Legal offers professional legal services to all South Africans. Our plans are affordable, and you receive up to 745,000 rand worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our nationwide legal teams are standing by to support you 24 hours a day. Plus, all plans include a 5,000 rand bail benefit. Join today. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
This February, fall in love with a blockbuster that defined a generation. Courage, survival, rebellion. The world of Panem returns. Every moment, every battle, every choice. Settle in for the ultimate movie night with The Hunger Games. Back on your screen where it belongs. The Hunger Games, Sundays at 7 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
Eskom is upgrading old electricity meters with modern smart meters, giving you clarity, control and confidence. With your new meter, you'll be able to see your usage in real time, giving you the power to manage your electricity with ease. Smart meters are accurate and help Eskom respond faster to issues. Please allow their authorized installers access to install your new meter. For more information, visit the Eskom website. Eskom, redefining for a better future.
Thulasizwe Simelane is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio.
12 minutes after 7. As you heard there in the update from Rob Byrne, there is a massive protest. Well, let me say there's a protest because I haven't seen that it's massive. There's a protest playing itself out in Tembisa. Rob reporting a number of road closures and disruptions on the route, on the various routes in and around Tembisa. Residents in that area are staging what they are calling a shutdown today. So let's get you an update of what that is all about. Lelele Fakane is chairperson of the Tembisa Community Forum. Good morning to you and thank you for your time this morning. What is the protest about?
Good morning to us and the viewers. Thank you for having me this morning. The protest is about the new indigent policy that was introduced on the 1st of July 2026, which now led to people that are on indigent and deemed indigent to be terminated. They don't have electricity. Some of them, they have received pre-termination letters, meaning on the 25th of February, municipality will be cutting down their electricity. So that's what we're basically protesting about.
And how is the protest going? We are hearing reports of various road closures and disruptions. What's happening on the ground? Which areas are affected? Yeah.
There's still road closures. There's still protests, but it's slowly coming to an end after the mayor has issued a statement last night saying they will, with immediate effect, reconnect the households that are falling under indigent program and deemed indigent program. They will be restored back. They will have electricity, or they will be able to buy electricity as of this morning. So following that statement, I think things have slowly they've slowly come down. The protest is slowly coming down and things are slowly getting back to normal. But we are also going to be meeting with the MNC of Finance and the city manager during the course of today, which they will come and explain to the community or the residents of Tembisa what is the plan moving forward and what has been done in the past 24 hours since we've announced that we are taking it to the streets.
Yeah. And as sometimes happens in protests, there'll be people that get injured and people that get arrested. Any of that to report this morning?
As of now, I don't have anyone that's been arrested, been on the streets. There's few that have been injured. So far, the report I have, it's about 3 people that have been injured by law enforcement officers using rubber bullets. I've just checked one. The injuries are not major. It's just minor injuries. It's something that we can be able to sort out. The other 2, I'm waiting for the report so that we can check if they need to be taken to a hospital or a clinic or to get medical assistance.
All right. Lele, thank you for giving us that update. We'll come back to the issues, the substantive issues in the coming days around the indigent policy of the city, as well as, the issues around pre-terminations and terminations of services. But we thought it's important to just get the update of the situation on the ground this morning. That's Lele Fakane, who is chairperson of the Tembisa Community Forum.
So you thought you were building a business in this economy, but day by day, somehow it grew. You kept going when the freezer didn't freeze, the bucket didn't budge, and the bank balance barely blinked. So you thought you were building a business. You weren't. It was building you. Because this isn't just what you do anymore, it's who you are, and you don't trust just anybody to protect it. Chat to your broker about Old Mutual Insure Business Insurance. Protect what built you. Old Mutual Insure Limited is a licensed FSP and non-life insurer.
Akudlalwa udlalwa ngempela amakhosi collides with ezimnyama ngenkani. Soweto will roar, Mzansi will feel it, only one will rise. Every tackle, every pass, every goal could define the season. This is the Betway Premiership. Listen, forever. Catch the Soweto Derby, Kaizer Chiefs versus Orlando Pirates on Saturday, 28 February at 2 p.m. live on SABC Plus and SABC One. Then at 3:30 p.m. on SABC radio stations. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
17 minutes after 7. 4 of the 17 South Africans who have been caught up in the fighting in Ukraine, between Russia and Ukraine, have returned, bringing with them disturbing accounts of abuse, injury and trauma. Family members say the men described racist and degrading treatment at the hands of Russian officers, forced to burn their belongings, stripped of their identities and sent into combat without much training. Now that they are back in the country, attention shifts to two critical questions: the challenges they face reintegrating into society and the legal accountability they may face under South African law for joining a foreign armed conflict. Let's pick up that conversation with Ricardo Teixeira, his defense and national security analyst. Good morning to you, Ricardo, and thank you for your time. Let's just start with the return of the South Africans. How difficult is it? We started gleaning a bit of detail from the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Ronald Lamula, when he was speaking in Parliament during the debate into the President's State of the Nation address. It's at a high level in diplomacy, isn't it?
Morning to us, and thank you very much for having me. Yes, it's some serious diplomatic negotiations that had to happen, but aside from that, the logistics of being able to get back from the front line was an immense challenge. I mean, we're talking about an area that is between 10 and 20 kilometers wide, where it's just saturated by drone cover and artillery cover, and it's very, very difficult for anything to move without being seen, and if it's seen, it gets hit. We were talking about one of the most deadly places on the planet and in human history. So the fact that they managed to get out and get home, I am pleasantly surprised, and I'm grateful that they managed to get home. But these men have been through quite an ordeal, and some serious trauma, and I think they're going to need quite a lot of psychological counseling, and I hope the government is able to give it to them. And I think that their experiences are going to be quite a warning to our fellow South Africans about what Russia is doing and what Russia does to people.
Yeah. Do you think the difficulty of getting them back from the front line partly accounts for the phased approach to it? I saw some reports, for example, talking about at least 2 of them having been injured, and one of them, I think, unaccounted for. I think what was the report that I saw over the weekend.
Yes. I mean, the larger the group, the easier it is to spot them. So it makes sense to me that they are bringing them out in smaller groups, because if you had to put together all of them in one group from an ISR or an intelligence and surveillance standpoint on the front line, that would present quite a target. So it's understandable to me that they brought them out in small groups, just because it's easier and it's safer.
Extensive reporting has happened in the last while, Ricardo, about this program to recruit people of various nationalities, largely on the African continent, but also from elsewhere in Asia and other parts of the world, to be part of the fighting in Russia and between Russia and Ukraine. How much do we know about that practice and the distance or proximity between the state officially and other intermediaries, third parties, these agencies that recruit people that end up fighting on one side or the other?
So I was discussing with a Kenyan colleague this morning, and they estimate that approximately 1,000 Kenyans have ended up on the front line and have not been able to return home or have been killed in the fighting. And it seems what is likely happening from the accounts that he has seen and from my investigations is that what was formerly known as the Wagner Group and is now the Africa Corps, but is controlled by the Russian Ministry of Defense, is turning into a bit of a recruitment process or a recruitment agency, if you will. And they are recruiting people from all over the world, large numbers of people from Nepal, Colombia, India, Kenya, some from Tanzania, and of course South Africa. So although it is relatively new for South Africans, it's become a well-oiled machine to bring manpower into the Russian war machine. And it's quite intense, and they've been able to put out adverts that seem quite innocent and attract people through sign-up bonuses and promises of work, particularly in countries where unemployment is high. And a lot of people have fallen into it, and it's been a mechanism for the Russians to bring in manpower, which they are running through at quite a rate. I mean, in January, the Russia, it was one of the few months in this 4-year-long war now, where the Russian military wasn't able to bring in as many people as it lost, and they are burning through manpower, and in an attempt to avoid a conscription back home and to hide the levels of casualties they're experiencing from the Russian public, they are turning more towards this. So I expect there to be more of these adverts going around, and I would caution my fellow South Africans that any sort of advert for working in Russia or scholarships in Russia to take not with a grain of salt, but rather a kilogram of salt, and to be very aware of what it is likely going to entail. There have previously been adverts from the Department of Education about scholarships in Russia, and I would caution anyone against applying for those.
Lastly, Ricardo, now that these 4 men are back on home soil, comes the now what part of the story. The law is clear, but the circumstances are a bit murky, aren't they? The circumstances around which they claim to have ended up in the front lines in Ukraine.
Yes, so I think one thing that is a bit of a positive out of this is that they will be witnesses, and they can give a lot more information and be able to answer many of the questions that have been unanswered so far as to how this all happened, who facilitated their movement, and the extent to which people like Thulasizwe Simelane were involved. And although they were sent against their will and unknowingly, I think they may still potentially face charges, but I think that their testimony will aid the investigations going forward.
All right, Ricardo, I've got to thank you for your time and your insights. That's Ricardo Teixeira, Defense and National Security Analyst.
Big stories of the day. #TheMorningBrief.
Right, let's move to this story. Herman Mashaba has officially announced that he is stepping back into the race for mayor of Johannesburg, setting up what is shaping up to be a high-stakes political showdown ahead of the upcoming local government elections. Speaking from a stage set up to resemble a boxing ring, at least part of it, the Action SA leader declared that Johannesburg is in a fight for its future, positioning himself as the candidate who can rescue the city from collapse. Mashaba previously served as mayor between 2016 and 2019 under the banner of the Democratic Alliance, and his return sets up a direct contest with the DA's candidate, Helen Zille. Herman Mashaba joins me now to pick up on that conversation. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time. Does it communicate something that you as party leader decided that, or perhaps the party leadership decided that there's no other person suitable for deployment to be the candidate for the mayor of Johannesburg other than you, the party leader?
Good morning, Thulasizwe, and good morning to SAFM listeners. I think we, as a party, took residents of Johannesburg, of South Africa, into confidence about the process we followed. We advertised and reported on the findings of that process. And about a month ago or so, then did clear that in the event someone is not available, I'll make myself available. And fortunately enough, four of my colleagues also made themselves available. Then the party then took us on a process to present a turnaround strategy. And obviously, as you are aware, I was under a lot of pressure from party structures, from people of Johannesburg that are returned. And I realized, if not me, who? If not now, when? And that's a decision that I took and really prepared to face this brutal work.
Yeah. So, what do you gauge to be, let's say, top three burning issues in Johannesburg and your immediate thinking about them?
Well, I think I'll be misleading people of Joburg to only give them three. Johannesburg, it's in a mess. We've got to tackle all the issues simultaneously. I think we've got infrastructure backlog. We've got high unemployment. We've got the inner city that is taken over by criminal syndicates. We have businesses in our communities taken over by illegal, undocumented foreign nationals. We've got an infrastructure that's collapsing. The taps are running dry. In the meantime, our dams, the Val Dam, is full. We've got all the time the challenges with electricity, streets, lights. Our roads, some of them, unfortunately, we cannot even really drive a tractor on. So it's not just the safety of our citizens when we've got the Metro Police not really engaged in ensuring that we provide the services to our people. So it's not just really two or three things. I think as government, you have the mayor and 10 mayoral committee members. All of them have to hit the ground running simultaneously.
And how do you gauge your path to victory? What does it look like for you? As things stand, from the last local government elections, you were the third largest party, if I'm not mistaken, after the ANC and the DA. So what does the path to victory look like for you?
Well, the reason why we've entered this the race right now is to win. That is what we are going to focus on. I think at this point in time, I don't think I need to really give you an academic number.
Yeah.
But what we are saying is we are going to do everything possible to get as many votes as possible. It would be wonderful for the residents of Johannesburg to give us outright majority. However, if they don't, we're happy to be in a coalition. But in that coalition, we also we're going to strive to ensure that we get the biggest number so that ultimately Action SA takes over the leadership of the city.
Do you consider do you consider your former comrade in the DA, Helen Zille, to be a potential stumbling block on that path to victory? Do you consider her a threat?
I cannot really see Helen Zille being a threat. I think Helen Zille's track record of governance, as much as some people say it's been great, but I can tell you people of Inyanga, the Khayelitsha, the Cape Flats will give you a totally different story. And I look at the voting dynamics of the city of Johannesburg, fortunately enough, in Action SA's favor, because these are people who are aware what's really happening in their communities as a result of Helen. So I don't, and she's the one responsible for the disrupting my government at the time in 2019. She's responsible after 2021. We as Action SA gave 44 of our councillors to support Dr. Popalatsi to govern. And she's the one single-handedly collapsed that government for her to come back. And you have to ask yourself, what's the reason for her to come back when she's not taken care of black people in Cape this is the one who collapsed governments here in Johannesburg. At the same time, they are putting 100 million rands to hide the poor black people in Cape Town. So if ever her thinking is that we must put a wall between Alexander and Sandton where I live, because she used to go accuse
In
me
fairness,
of
though,
not
she's not
cutting grass in
suggested that, has she? She hasn't suggested that.
No. Where have you been? Have you just woken up yesterday? It's on record where she says, "I'm not cutting grass in Sandton."
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Herman Mashaba is Joburg mayoral candidate and also leader of Action SA. Let's go to Ann Musa, standing by with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, the son of the late former Zimbabwean President Robert Mugabe and a co-suspect are expected to appear in the Alexandra Magistrates Court in Johannesburg this morning. Palomine Mugabe and another man were arrested last week following the shooting of a 23-year-old gardener at Mugabe's home in Hyde Park. The TRC Cases Inquiry will today hear evidence from former Acting National Director of Public Prosecutions, Dr. Silas Ramahite. He served as the deputy for 15 years before President Cyril Ramaphosa appointed him to an acting capacity in August of 2018. And the U.S. Secret Service says agents have shot dead a man who attempted to breach a secure perimeter at President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAFM traffic with momentum. Just as you plan your route, only 15% of households plan for retirement. Plan yours today. Speak to a Momentum accredited financial advisor for advice that meets your context. Asante sana, Rob.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Very difficult conditions out of Tembisa this morning. Most of your major routes are currently blocked by protesters. That would include sections of Modderfontein Road going from Clearkop side up towards Ruby Ridge. That is all backed up. Ivory Park side very busy. Some restrictions around the big mall on Andrew and Petway. Although, just down the bottom there between the mall and you sort of Clearkop, Zeefontein Road, that section blocked. A lot of blockages in the central Tembisa area and all sorts of blockages up around the hospital and out towards Olifantsfontein as well. It's going to be a difficult morning getting out of Ivory Park and Tembisa and that Ruby Ridge area today. Joburg's Mike 1, pretty heavy from Boysons all the way up in towards Oxford Road today. A crash on the Mike 1 south at Crown, so that's heavy as you come down from the Braamfontein side. Breakdown on the N12 at Craft Road towards Joburg. That's pushed a queue all the way back into Boksburg area. Pietermaritzburg going to be a bit difficult today. Lights are out Ortmund and Bahambatha Road. Also Chotamatala at the N3 amongst all the roadworks. No lights there either. And Cape Town, very heavy traffic conditions. The N1 backing up from Kraaifontein today all the way to Kuiper. Get a change. M5 is at Southfield and there's a crash on the N2 out of town in front of Spine Road at Khayelitsha. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
They say the early bird catches the worm. Great advice, unless you're the worm. Generic so-called wisdom doesn't work for everyone, so I settle for a financial plan that's one size fits some. Momentum accredited financial advisors take the time to get to really know your unique situation. Advice meets your context. Momentum, your journey to success. Momentum is part of Momentum Group Limited, an authorized financial services and registered credit provider.
SAFM traffic with momentum. Just as you plan your route, only 15% of households plan for retirement. Plan yours today. Speak to a Momentum accredited financial advisor for advice that meets your context.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, good morning to you. So the Proteas are still unbeaten at the T20 World Cup and they've crushed India, right?
Yeah, Thulas, we are unbeaten and unbothered this morning. I just think a lot of, somewhere in the IPL, the WhatsApp groups, I think, are very silent from last night. Wonderful news to see our Proteas team. And we saw David Miller. I mean, he just rose, saying that the Proteas, their big takeaway from last night's 76-run T20 World Cup Super 8 win over India in Ahmedabad was simple, that India is beatable. South Africa ending India's 826-day unbeaten run in ICC events, with Miller top scoring on 63 before our bowlers ripped through the hosts. The Proteas now sit pretty in Group 1, with West Indies next up on Thursday, and we take on Zimbabwe on Sunday. More action from the ICC T20 World Cup. England bounced back from a poor batting display to claim a 51-run victory over Sri Lanka in their Super 8 opener at Pallekele. Defending 147, England's bowlers ripped through Sri Lanka's top order, reducing them to 34 for 5 in the power play. The result marks Sri Lanka's 12th consecutive T20 defeat to England. Closer to home in Bloemfontein, Sune Lewis starred with the bat and ball as the Proteas women beat Pakistan by 37 runs in the opening ODI at the Mangaung Oval. And on to some soccer action. The Nedbank Cup quarter-final teams are confirmed. Sekhukhune United are the last side into the last 8 after beating the University of Pretoria 1-0 yesterday. Vuyo Letlapa fired Babina Noko in front with a low strike. And the keeper, Toaster in Sabata, did the rest as Tuks pushed late but couldn't find an equalizer. Sekhukhune joined Amazulu, Tears Galaxy, Durban City, Keswick Stars, Golden Arrows, Milford FC and Jack Spears in the quarterfinals. Premier League results from overnight. Arsenal running riot in the North London derby, thumping Tottenham 4-1. Store their authority at the top. Liverpool left it late, but they edged Nottingham Forest 1-0 away from home to keep the pressure firmly on. Fulham enjoyed a big afternoon on the road, beating Sunderland 3-1, while Crystal Palace edged Wolves 1-0, with Wolves finishing the match a man down. Tonight, all eyes on Goodison Park as Everton hosts Manchester United at 10 p.m. And finally, rugby. The junior Springboks opened their 2-match series with a 35-0 victory over Georgia, and it all happened in Tbilisi, Georgia yesterday. South Africa stormed to a 35-0 half-time lead. And that's your sport. We'll be back tackling more at the top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Dowling, good morning to you. So some key news coming out of the retail sector. SPAR CEO unexpectedly stepping down.
That's right, Tulas. Angelo Swartz, the CEO of SPAR, has resigned after less than 3 years in the role, with the company providing little explanation for the sudden move. Now, he will remain for 3 months to manage the handover. CFO Reza Isaacs takes over from the 1st of March, while the CFO becomes, the COO, that is, becomes the CFO. Now, Swartz's exit marks another change at the group, still navigating a recovery, while the balance sheet has strengthened. Ongoing legal action, retailer dissatisfaction, and the risks tied to the next phase of its SAP implementation suggest the pressure on incoming leadership will be immediate. Now, the retailer is facing a 168.7 million rand lawsuit from one of its largest franchise groups following the failed rollout of a new SAP system at its KZN distribution center, which disrupted supply chains and hurt sales. During Swartz's tenure, SPAR exited troubled European operations and reduced net debt by 40%. However, it reported a 5 billion rand loss for 2025 and has yet to resume dividend payments. Now, markets disgruntled with the move, which saw its share price shed over 7% on Friday.
So tell me about Anglo pushing ahead with the De Beers disposal.
Yeah. Anglo says it's optimistic that the sale of De Beers could be completed by the end of this year, Tulas, even as the diamond unit's struggles contributed to a near 60 billion rand loss for the group. Now, CEO Duncan Warnblant said the group is in the second phase of its disposal process, noting several credible bidders, including potential partnerships involving governments such as Namibia and Angola. However, he cautioned that short-term market challenges, oversupply of rough diamonds, lab-grown alternatives, and tariffs on Indian cutting and polishing could continue to weigh on valuations. A 37.1 billion rand pre-tax impairment marked on De Beers has weighed on the group's performance, and this is the third write-down in 3 years. While a separate listing of the Diamond Group remains possible, Warnblant said it would likely be at a later stage. Botswana, which owns 15% of De Beers, remains a key stakeholder in any sale or restructuring.
And the markets in Dowling, what's moving and shaping the markets at this hour?
Kicking things off in Asia, we are seeing stocks returning online after the Chinese New Year. Stocks on that front mixed, but there seems to be some optimism in the air as markets cheer the U.S. Supreme Court striking down most of President Trump's global tariffs. Trump, however, pushing back, and so traders keeping an eye on that. Now, while those markets keep a close eye on the tariff moves, U.S. futures are in the red, digesting some of the data out from last week. And then coming back home, traders in the green, with the all share closing almost 8% higher on Friday. Looking at currencies, the rand recouping some losses at 16.03 to the dollar this morning, 21.66 to the pound, and 18.94 to the euro. Lastly, in commodities, oil trading just under $70 a barrel. Traders on that front also eyeing those tariff developments as well as tensions between the US and Iran.
All right, Dowling, thank you for that. We'll get an update from Dowling one more time just after 8:30.
At Discovery Health Medical Scheme, we're for health. For health that runs in the family.
Come on, guys. We're nearly there.
And for families that run for health. With our world-first personal health pathways, coaching you to better health and earning you up to 20,000 Rand extra day-to-day cover. We're for rewarding health, for growing health, and for your family's best health.
Last one, there's a rotten egg.
Like no other. Join Discovery Health Medical Scheme and add your child from 895 Rand per month. Discovery Health Medical Scheme is a registered medical scheme. Personal Health Pathways is brought to members by Discovery Health.
This February, love staying informed. As your day winds down and the evening begins, Primetime News moves to a new home. Weekdays at 6 p.m. The stories that matter, the context you trust, the news that connects you to South Africa and the world. Because loving what you watch also means trusting what you hear. Primetime News is weeknights at 8 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
All right, let me take a few of your voice notes. In fact, let me start with a call from Mandla, then I'll do the voice notes in a moment. Mandla, good morning to you.
Good morning, Thulas. Thulas is sad what I hear about those 4 South Africans that returned from Russia.
Yeah.
You know, the level of racism and abuse that they experience under Russians, it's very sad. And I've always told people that if you want to see racism, go to Russia, go to China, stay there for a month, and you come back, tell us real racism. And we've got people like Omalema, they never said a racist Putin, you know? And Ramaphosa, President Ramaphosa, one day he went to Russia and he said to Putin, hello, my friends, in the middle of a war that the aggressor, Putin, started. And when John Steinhazen called him to order to say, you cannot say that, you know, the whole ANC was defending Ramaphosa. Putin, who kidnapped 2,000 kids from Ukraine to Russia and they changed their name, their culture. You know, very sad, abusive things done by Russia. But people in South Africa are quiet. They think Russia is our friend. They've never been. The only reason that Russia or USSR supported South Africa was because they wanted to steal the hearts of South Africans in the middle of a Cold War. That was the only reason. But love, no. Trump is supporting, or USA is supporting us through Al Gore, who are given support, who are benefiting, who are eating, and our kids are getting food. What do we get from Russia? What do we get from China?
So Mandla, are you of the view that South Africa, in terms of its alignment, is not aligned properly? Are you suggesting that we should be more aligned with the United States, for example?
Where we benefit, Thulas, you cannot befriend a person that is not benefiting you. You cannot. And go away from the person who gives you more benefit.
All right.
That means your level of thinking is not right. It's not correct.
Got you. Mandla, I'm pretty sure you'll be hearing a lot of people responding. Just one thing, though. Racism exists in the context in Russia, in society, but I don't think it is fair to then attribute it directly to Vladimir Putin without more being said about him being racist. I don't think that's been an allegation. You can have racism in a society, but to impute it directly to a person, I think you need to say more than just, racism exists in your country, therefore you are racist. I'm not saying he's not. I'm just saying that you need to say more to be able to draw that conclusion. Les in the Western Cape, Herman Mashaba versus Helen Zille on your mind this morning.
Okay, Thulas, thank you very much with and the SAFM listeners. So first of all, I want to talk about the boxing ring between the two. And then if I check the boxing ring between the two, in the Joburg Metro, it's divided into 7 regions. When it's divided into 7 regions, the region D is in Soweto, where Herman Mashaba have got a good support there. But however, those support from the Soweto, those are the ANC wards, which means the parties that are going to be in race there is the ANC, DA, Action South Africa, MK, and EFF. So Mashaba can have a good result from the Region D, which have got 37 wards. Apart from that, there is a Region 1, Region A, which have got 11 wards. And those are the mid-red, and then with a little bit from the deep growth, those give an advantage for the Helen Zille. The Region B have got 12 wards, which have got a Rosebank, Northcliffe, and then this gives an advantage for the Helen Zille as a default winner. And the Region E is a default for Zille, whereby it's a Santen, Rosebank, Houghton, and then she got a good advantage. The Region F is also for maybe 50-50 Moses and Mayfair, Southgate, and Brabanton, which means it can be 50-50, whereby Helen Zille, she can win there. And the Region G is where is Enadale, Orange Farm, Lenesia, somewhere there. The Helen Zille, she cannot win there.
Yeah.
But apart from that, there's a Region C. The Region C is a Northcliffe where Helen Zille have got an advantage as a default winner. So in this case, Mashaba cannot succeed unless he will depend on the coalition.
Yeah.
Helen Zille, she's the one who's going to win there as majority. And remember, the ANC is going to defend their own words.
Les, I love your level of detail in terms of the political map of Johannesburg, but you are not factoring in who the ANC fields as their candidate. MK Party were not in the mix the last time around, the last local government elections. They are in the mix. Who do they eat away from? Without going through the regions, who do they take? Because they have to take from someone.
No. Remember, every political party they are going to take from ANC. ANC is in sale. All wards of the ANC are in sale, which means people are going to take from the ANC. More special for the Soweto is where the EFF and the Action South Africa and the MK, they are going to take from ANC. And then even if the DA have got an advantage from the Soweto, maybe as a fourth or five parties, they are going to have that advantage. The only thing that I can see, the last thing that I can see is the investment for the coalition. The coalition that is coming is going to be a 7 colors, whereby maybe Henry Mashaba is going to make a coalition with the ANC and other and EFF. And that thing is a racism that in return, just because the community needs service. Right. They don't need people who are doing discrimination against DA or whatsoever.
Les,
Thank you.
Thank you for that. That's Les in the Western Cape. Just running ahead, really, with the political analysis. As he was talking, I was reminded of that map when the results start coming in and you can click into the map and it's color-coded for each political party and see up to the level of the ward, up to the level of the voting district, what has happened there. So in a way, Les traumatized me there. It feels like we're already in election mode with that analysis from Les. I don't know. Do you agree with some of what Les has had to say? What's your thinking about the race for mayor of the city of Johannesburg and any other parts of the country, by the way? How's that shaping up?
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Pretoria first up, pretty heavy backlogs around Sefako Makato and Moloto Road. Well, Sefako Makato coming out of Montana, it's heavy towards the highway, and then the other side of the highway, it's all backed up around Moloto Road separately as well. Paul Kruger through Capital Park in towards Pretoria CBD, that looks heavy this morning. N14, the Krugersdorp Highway, got a bit of pressure between the R55 Pretoria West exit and John Foster as you come up through Brockfontein onto the M1 North. Lights are out all over Olifantsfontein, the Pretoria Main and the N1, so that's a disaster, particularly out from Blue Hills towards the N1. It's really bad getting through there. N12, very heavy Monday morning from Benoni through towards Germiston area. There are 2 breakdowns in that high volume, one around the R21 exit, another one that's been there all morning down by Craft Road. So from sort of Tom Jones Street, central Benoni, it gets heavy all the way out through Atlas and down through Jet Park on your way to that Craft Road off-ramp. Also crash on the N17 at Gothforth Plaza, so some additional delays coming through there this morning. A couple of big traffic lights down around Pietermaritzburg area, the R33 at Ortman Road, those lights are down. Also Chotamatala at the N3, so just coming in from the Northerdale area, that's quite busy. Breakdown at Ashburton, starting to slow traffic on the way through to Durban, and the N3 inbound pretty heavy today, passing Pavilion Mall, heading through towards the Spaghetti Junction interchange. The N2 north from the M7 through Spaghetti Junction up towards Westwood Mall is heavy, and there's a breakdown on the N2 south as well. In fact, that's a crash before you get to Clare Road Bridge. So just traffic all over Spaghetti Junction, all approaches. Also the M4, the Ruthfirst Highway, collision before Virginia Airport. That's why you're backlogging to Blue Lagoon. And the Southern Freeway inbound's heavy today from Umbilo Kongela as you line up into the CBD. Western Avenue, jam-packed for East London motorists. Good morning if you're out that way at Western Avenue. Something's gone wrong there. Cape Town, heavy pressure on the N7 from Dunoon all the way down to Bosmansdam Road and the N1. If you're joining from Dunoon or joining from Plattekloof Road, there's a terrific amount of traffic on that N7 this morning. And there's a heavy pressure and build-up both directions through Stickland and Cales River on Fun River and Strand Road, both ways towards the R300 bridge. Quite heavy backlogging going on there as well. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
EFC returns this Thursday as Cape Town takes on the world. South Africa's greatest warrior, Dricus du Plessis, brings a host of international challengers to battle. 4 title fights, 1 unforgettable night. Luke Michael versus the Congo's Diego Bandu. FaZe Jacobs versus Australia's Trent Girdham. Ryan Sanchez versus Brazil's Jefferson Pereira. And Tumelo Manyamala versus the Zulu warrior, Tondo Zondi. The Knox Legacy Series, in partnership with the City of Cape Town, explodes this Thursday at Grand West. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
In 2025, Liberty paid out 48 million rand in education cover claims to 755 families, meaning...
So many kids still went to school?
Correct.
Even when the dog ate their homework?
Yep.
What if it rained so hard that even fish needed raincoats?
School's still on.
But why?
Because there's no negotiation when it comes to protecting your child's tomorrow, even if you become disabled or pass away. Get education cover today. Liberty, in it with you. Liberty Group Limited, a licensed life insurer and authorized FSP and part of the Standard Bank Group. T's and C's, risks and limitations apply.
This February, fall in love with friendships that feel like family. Old bonds, new beginnings, and chapters that remind us why love, in all its forms, matters. The story comes full circle in The Best Man, the final chapters, where love, loyalty, and life collide one last time. Because some stories stay with you long after the final scene. The Best Man, the final chapters, weeknights 7 p.m. only on S3 of the Love.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Straight to your voice notes and then I'll go to the calls. Let me take these ones that have to do with the Joburg mayoral race.
Good morning to Thulasizwe and SFM listeners. That was a very good analysis from Les. But what Les also failed to mention is numbers. You can't compare the amount of people staying in Soweto with Sandton, obviously. So even if Helen can win Sandton, but if let's say Action SA wins Soweto, Helen won't win the mayor because Soweto simply has more numbers. So Les should incorporate such into his analysis. Thank you. Puta here from Pretoria.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. I just want to share my thought with regards to the conversation you're having with Herman Mashaba, the Action SA leader. Thulasizwe, it's a known fact. Every resident of the city of Johannesburg knows that this man was once an incompetent mayor of the city of Johannesburg. So what makes him think that anybody is even going to want to vouch or vote for him to be a mayor of the city of Johannesburg? He's lying to himself, and he cannot lie to any resident of the city of Johannesburg. He can't fool anybody in the city of Johannesburg. He's an incompetent mayor. And what we should be questioning is what was his involvement in appointing Shadrack Sibiya there at the city of Johannesburg, and some of the things he had to sign off on. Daniel here in Bryanston.
Good morning, Thulas and the listeners of SAFM. Thulas, even myself, I support Herman Mashaba to be the mayoral candidate of Johannesburg to finish his job from the new Machab, Togwamukomin.
If you think too many South African municipalities are run by hilarious clowns who presume to be mayors, then you are right. Because look at Herman Mashaba challenging Helen Zille when he is the failed mayor of Johannesburg, wanting to resume mayorship against the world-leading mayor of Cape Town, Helen Zille.
All right, that's Zig and Renberg. Has to be. And I love how I just now know your tone. Like even before Daniel could finish and sign off, Daniel in Bryanston, I knew that was Daniel. And the passion in your voices, all very interesting. Let me go to Bonagele in Cape Town. Good morning to you, Bonagele. Bonagele, good morning. Bonagele? Let me go to Pumzile in the Eastern Cape. Good morning to you, Pumzile.
Thank you very much, Thulas, and thanks for Bonagele to make way for me quickly.
Yes.
Thulas, quickly, on the Municipal Demarcation Board. I would like you to invite this Chapter 9 institution, because I find it, in fact, succumbing to pressure of the DA in the delimitation of wards. Particular case in Kocha, there's Ward 15, which was well integrated, which is one of the principles and guiding factors for its existence as the MDB, to make sure that there's integration, easy access to amenities, etc., etc. Ward 15 in Kocha was well integrated, but now it has been disintegrated. All black people are excluded. Black people, I refer to those that speak, in fact, vernacular. And they've been excluded, and it has been now incorporated with a portion of Ward 6, which used to be a white area called Boscloof. And now the point is, those courses taken to Ward 15 with the so-called colored community to entrench the hegemony of the DA. I mean, we have appealed on this matter, but the Municipal Demarcation Board doesn't actually seem to be willing to attend to what we have actually tabled to them.
All right.
Please invite them so that we debate the delimitation of wards.
Yeah.
Please, my good brother.
No, absolutely. Pumzile, that's absolutely one that we will pick up. Lebo is noting it. It's an important conversation. Ward delimitation and how it works, and then you can engage about the issues and concerns that you are raising about it. Let's go straight to N. Musa with the latest news.
Outsurance is in the business of saving you money on your car insurance premium. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754.
In our top stories, former Zimbabwean leader's son and co-accused to appear in court, and TRC inquiry to hear testimony from former Acting National Director of Public Prosecutions. Good morning. The son of the late former Zimbabwean President Robert Mugabe and a co-suspect are expected to appear in the Alexandra Magistrates Court in Johannesburg this morning. Bellarmine Mugabe and another man were arrested on Thursday last week following the shooting of a 23-year-old gardener at Mugabe's home in Hyde Park. The pair face charges of attempted murder. Police have not yet found the firearm used in the shooting incident. Security strategist Andy Mashele says the crime scene may have been tampered with.
Someone on the inside removed that firearm to ensure that the crime scene is contaminated. This is an intentional contamination of the crime scene to mess up the evidence so that the individual cannot be arrested by the police. This means that there is an intentional defeating the ends of justice.
6 people arrested in connection with the killing of an e-hailing driver are expected to appear in the Pretoria Magistrates Court this morning. 22-year-old Isaac Satlat was killed in Attridgeville, west of Pretoria, earlier this month. The incident, which was recorded and posted on social media, went viral. Pusoletso Mukwena reports.
It's alleged that after disposing Satlat's body, the accused took his vehicle to Motwa for him to remove the tracker. The 3 newly added accused, Dumisang Mabutla, Ofense Sonwamadi and Tabang Motwa, were arrested on Monday last week after police investigations linked them to the incident. Mabutla is facing charges of premeditated murder and robbery with aggravating circumstances. Sonwamadi is charged with premeditated murder and robbery with aggravating circumstances as an accessory after the fact, while Motwa is only charged with robbery with aggravating circumstances as an accessory after the fact.
In other news, the TRC Cases Inquiry will today hear evidence from former Acting National Director of Public Prosecutions, Dr. Silas Rameite. He served as the deputy for 15 years before President Cyril Ramaphosa appointed him to an acting capacity in August of 2018. His name was mentioned last week. It was in connection with an allegation that the then President Thabo Mbeki had blocked the imminent arrest of an accused in the poisoning of anti-apartheid activist Reverend Frank Chikane. Major COSATU-affiliated public service unions, including Nahau, SATU, Denosa and PopCrew, will today hold a media briefing in Braamfontein in Johannesburg. They expected to voice their anger over the government employees medical scheme, GEM's 9.8% members' contribution increase. COSATU has described the increase as unlawful and unaffordable. The Labour Federation's national spokesperson, Zanele Sabela.
On Tuesday, there'll be lunchtime pickets throughout the country. On Thursday, we are going to GEM's head office in Pretoria to protest there. And so if that doesn't happen, then we are the regulator in this industry is the Council for Medical Schemes, and they actually recommended that GEMS put up their increase by 3.3%. And so for GEMS to have tripled that is actually quite alarming. And so that's the independent body that we will be asking to intervene in this case. But then we're also looking at going to court.
And finally, the U.S. Secret Service says agents have shot dead a man who attempted to breach a secure perimeter at President Donald Trump's Florida residence. Trump was in Washington at the time of the incident yesterday. Officials say the 21-year-old man was carrying a shotgun and a fuel can. The BBC's Bernd Dubisman has more.
His family had reported him missing. What investigators are looking at now is where he obtained the weapon, whether there was any sort of ideological motive or whether he was perhaps politically motivated or whether this was unrelated to that entirely. Some U.S. media have spoken to his neighbors and they've said he's otherwise quiet. He wasn't necessarily involved in politics. So it's still quite a mystery what exactly happened.
Recapping the top story, the son of the late former Zimbabwean president, Robert Mugabe, and a co-suspect are expected to appear in the Alexandra Magistrates Court in Johannesburg this morning. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754.
Love is in the air, but with Outsurance, there could be some awesome car insurance savings for you too. Like 27-year-old Liam, who saves an awesome 640 Rand on his 2020 Ford Ranger. Get a quote now, and if Outsurance can't save you money, ask for 500 Rand or 1,500 Rand if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
It's a very good morning to you. In your SFM Sports headlines, soccer, after their shock Nedbank Cup exit, Orlando Pirates are looking to history for redemption ahead of the Soweto Derby. And in Formula One, it's a radical rotating gear wing that's being called a genius diffuser to push Ferrari to the front in Bahrain testing. We'll have the details and more at around 8:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Heavy delays coming out of Benoni through Boksburg and in towards the Germiston area, Germiston Edenvale of the N12. There are two breakdowns in the high volume, one on the N12 West at the R21 and another been there all morning just down by Craft Road. So from sort of Tom Jones territory right through to Craft Road, it's heavy. Just been a crash on the N3 North at Galulis. That's starting to slow things up. M2 coming in from Joe Slovo, Benro side into Crown. Very heavy delays for those getting into central Joburg this morning. Ollie van Fontaine Road at the N1 Highway. Bad backlogs, no traffic lights, still a problem there. And leaving Montana, Sefako Makato still quite slow out towards the N1 highway. Durban, a collision scene on the M4. This is going north before Virginia Airport. That's having quite a big impact if you're on your way to Umhlanga. N3 inbound is heavy from Pavilion Mall to Spaghetti Junction. N2 north and southbound, both queuing into 4 level as well. And the southern freeways under some pressure through Umbilo and Kongela as you get up into the central Durban area. Stationary truck on the M4 at Ashburton. That's just starting to slow things up. Cape Town, some really heavy pressure around Stickland. Van Riebeek out of Kales River Strand, out of Belleville, down towards the R300, both ways bad. And a crash on the N2 out of town at Spine Road, causing a heavy backlog passing Khayelitsha. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
At the risk of sounding like a broken record, asante sana, Rob. And I do that deliberately because a lot of people have come through and said, thank you for asking that question, Rob. And Jabulo Mpungo says an example. Jabulo Mpungo saying Ladysmith, who says, Wow, thank you, Rob, for asking about that phrase, Garaz Sipho. I always wondered what he meant with that expression of Asante Sana. It is 10 minutes after 8. Welcome to the third hour of the morning brief on this Monday. It is great to be in your company. As far as the comments on the WhatsApp line are concerned, it's a great variety, really. It's a full buffet of the conversation that we have decked out for you on the table. So quite a few people talking about the mayoral race in the city of Johannesburg. Papillon in Eldos, for example, says there is no need for the ANC to appoint a mayor for Jozi, as their cadre Mashaba is that mayor, that candidate. And Papillon then going on to say, Herman, how hard you will fall, says Papillon in Eldos. And someone else says, Herman is again on a tirade, rehashing the old diagnosis without providing any tangible solutions. And then on the issue of someone was talking about I think it was Mandla. Let me not try and commit to a name. But we had a caller from Cape Town who was talking about the comparison and the alignment of South Africa, Russia versus the United States. This person says, Russia and China never colonized us. They never accused us of genocide. Maybe he should tell us what he's personally benefiting from AGOA. My Grootman must get facts right, says that person there. And then let me read this one. Sipho says, Lamola and Ramaphosa must disclose the deal to return those young men sold by Zuma. How much was paid by Russia and how much was refunded to them? Will it be billed to Zuma? How was the deal done while Russia is under sanctions? All of those are questions that Sipho would want to have answered around the return of those 4 of the 17 South Africans who've been in the fighting in Ukraine. And then lastly, let me read this one. This person says, please do some digging at King Sabata Dalindyebo TVET College in Mthatha. Students remain with no lecturers since the commencement of classes. Most lecturers are on contracts, and some of them never got their contracts renewed. They are sitting at home. Government is encouraging young people to enroll at TVET colleges, yet there are no resources. KSD College is one of the biggest colleges in the Eastern Cape, yet they remain with no full-time lecturers. Please get an official from the department. Another one that I think is really a good suggestion for a follow-up for us, because at the start of the year, at the start of the academic year, these issues always come to the fore and come into sharp focus. So thank you for that. Let's see if we can line up something of a conversation about KSD, King Sabata Dalindyebo TVET College in Mthatha. Your calls, I'll take those on 086 000 2032. 086 000 2032. Your WhatsApp voice notes, please put them through to 0614 104 107. Let's get into it. The third hour of the morning brief starts now.
Clientele is here to safeguard you and your family with compassion because life happens. Be part of a family that truly cares. Our funeral dignity plans have helped South Africans bury their loved ones with dignity for more than 30 years. Let us help you create a meaningful tribute that honors your life and those of your loved ones. We pay out within 24 hours and you will get double accident cover with a clientele funeral plan. Our plans are affordable. Pick the option that suits your needs. Easy to apply, no medical examinations and no paperwork. SMS SAFM to 48031. That's 48031. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
This February, fall in love with a blockbuster that defined a generation. Courage, survival, rebellion. The world of Panem returns. Every moment, every battle, every choice. Settle in for the ultimate movie night with The Hunger Games. Back on your screen where it belongs. The Hunger Games, Sundays at 7 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
Big stories of the day. #The Morning Brief.
14 minutes after 8, a silent demonstration at the University of Cape Town on Friday. Students standing in quiet formation rather than chanting slogans. And that has become the latest symbol of mounting frustration over financial exclusion at one of the country's premier institutions. The protest, described by organizers as both a cry of grief and a call for meaningful change, comes after weeks of, several days, let's call it that, of disruptions that saw access at the Rondebosch campus and the busy M3 entrances blocked at some point in the last few days. At the center of the upheaval is historic student debt, rising tuition and accommodation costs, and residence fees that students say far exceed what NSFAS covers, leaving some needing more than 50,000 rand simply to continue with their studies. Let's hear more on that story from Mfundo Azizondo from UCT, a UCT student. Good morning to you, Mfundo, and thank you for your time this morning. What is the confluence of issues that has brought us to this point at the start of the academic year at UCT, such that we are sitting with quite a number of students, according to the last tally, that remain unregistered as lectures begin?
Morning, Thulasizwe, and to the listeners. Thank you for the opportunity. At this point in time, we can confirm that since December until now in January, many engagements have been made by our SRC and university management to ensure that as many students are able to register as possible. However, this simply is not enough because from Friday, when we held our silent demonstration, about 400, at minimum 400, academically eligible and capable students had to face the reality that they had to go home because they were unregistered and registration was closing on Friday. So just as much as there have been some debt relief measures to assist students who are financially vulnerable, it has not been enough to aid all the students who are finding themselves in a position of financial vulnerability because financial circumstances in households change and students and their families aren't able to keep up with the exorbitant fees at UCT. And I like that you spoke about the residences because the residences are more often than not the cause of the high fees because an average for a first-year residence students would be 200,000 in a year. So not many families are able to keep up with that money out of pocket. And so that's why we find ourselves in a situation where over 400 students were unregistered and registration was closing on Friday. And we felt as though those students were just now being forced to silently conform and to exit without anything being done, and they were going ignored, and not enough was being done about that. So we thought we should undertake the silent protest to raise awareness and ensure that the status quo is not accepted as the normal.
So the university, part of the response from the university has been to point out that they are making efforts on their part to try and meet students at their point of need. The Vice-Chancellor, Professor Musa Moshabela, confirming that some 2,883 students have benefited from debt relief. Does that help somewhat with dealing with the problem? In other words, would we be sitting with far much more people being financially excluded, but for the interventions of the university?
I think, well, broadly speaking, sir, the university's interventions are very necessary and they're very welcome by students because at the bottom line is the fact that many students can't keep up with high UCT fees. Even government through NSFAS can't keep up with UCT fees. As you rightly pointed out to the fact that even if you're funded by NSFAS, you're guaranteed to have a fee block of around 50,000 because that NSFAS cannot cover it because UCT is just way more expensive than what NSFAS can cover, especially if you're including residents there. And residents should ideally be something that enables students to be closer to campus, to be able to access quality education, but it's becoming an inhibition on the access to education. Now, those concessions or those interventions by management are simply allowing students to register with their debts. You must remember that now that debt is not written off. Students are still in a financially vulnerable position. The same students who are coming from households that are below the breadline, households that are what you would term indigent, and they are now being permitted to continue with their debts. Now, what would happen is that students would be able to register and continue their studies and continue to excel. But when it comes time to them to graduate, if they get to graduate, then the students will graduate with hundreds of thousands of debts, and also the student is also coming from an indigent background. Now, students are now being faced with the reality that you have to go look at your background, that you're not very well off, and also you have hundreds of thousands in debt. And that's just for the students who get to register. We are speaking about the students who are just as academically deserving because they are eligible to continue with their degrees, but simply because they cannot raise sufficient funds to pay off their outstanding debts, they can't continue to complete their degrees. And while we welcome the university's engagements and interventions, it's simply not enough when students face that harsh reality of having to go back to their communities. When we know, sir, that when students go back to the harsh realities of being a South African, some of them go back to abusive households, some of them go back to realities that are not so pleasant. Like, there's many things that you can imagine, and that platform of the talent protest gave that expression of students who were able to then come forward and say, this is what we're going to.
Just as the parting shot then, how do we move forward? Is it your sense that the system, as far as financing and funding of students across the higher education sector, but in particular universities, is due for another reckoning, another hard look at what the realities are? Because perhaps the realities may have shifted from where we were when the fees must fall movement forced a reckoning with some of these issues.
That is definitely true, sir. Public higher education should be reformed to make it more accessible. And this is an appeal not just to university management, but also to those South Africans who are policymakers, who are business people, to see if there's anything they can do to assist this situation, because it is not an acceptable thing that eligible students are denied the opportunity to register. This is a perpetuation of generational poverty, and it stifles the potential of talented individuals. They can't contribute to the South African economy or making our country a better place because their potential is going to be laid to waste. And so it's a call really for intervention from policymakers, from business people, and from those who hear the situation of students.
All right, Mfundo, thank you for your time this morning. That's Mfundo Azizondo, who is a University of Cape Town student.
Every day, Rand Water's underground pipelines run through servitudes across the country, carrying millions of litres of water to our communities. But when people build too close, it's called encroachment, and it's very dangerous. If a pipeline bursts, it can flood homes, destroy property, and in many cases, people lose their lives. That's why Rand Water marks its servitudes with blue and white beacons, a clear warning to stay clear and safe. When we protect Rand Water's servitudes, we protect our communities too. Rand Water, finding new ways.
This February, love the truth, no matter how unsettling it is. They were called accidents, a slip, a fall, a tragic mistake. But what if they weren't? Fatal fall, murder or accident investigates suspicious deaths from balconies, staircases and cliffs, where one question refuses to go away. Did someone push them? Through forensic science and haunting testimony, the truth is uncovered. Fatal fall, murder or accident. Tuesdays 6 p.m. only on S3. Open up. S3.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
23 minutes after 8, just weeks after declaring itself ready to implement the long-delayed ARTO traffic fine system, the Road Traffic Infringement Agency has announced that it would be outsourcing the rollout to a private company. Now, some estimates, not confirmed by the agency itself, some estimates put that cost of that contract and that outsourcing at about 1.2 billion rand. Citing financial constraints, the agency missed its third implementation deadline on December 1 last year, and shortly thereafter issued a tender for a 60-month turnkey solution to design, build and operate core ARTO systems. So just for clarity, that call for bids required bidders to demonstrate access to at least 250 million rand in startup capital. But insiders, we are told, indicate that the value of the contract could be as high as 1.2 billion rand. Let's unpack all of that with Wayne Duvenage, CEO of the organization Undoing Tax Abuse, OUTA. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time, Wayne. Am I correct in that understanding of the bid calls for the bidders to show demonstrate access to 250 million rand, but there's a belief that actually the value of the contract could be higher?
Yeah, look, the belief is that it's a lot higher. We don't know yet. We'll have to see once the tenders are opened. But what the Department of Transport is saying, that you need to have access to at least 250 million rand, because they believe that's the minimum that it's going to cost to build the system. The big question, though, is, how is it possible that right up until December, the department was ready to roll out at 65 municipalities, or 69 municipalities, round about there. And then they cancel that, or they postpone that for 6 months. And within a couple of weeks, a tender goes out for this requirement, which is you've got to be able to manage this whole process. So they clearly didn't know, but they wouldn't have just put out a tender within 2 weeks and built that tender. They must have known beforehand. And my biggest concern is that this is a public-private partnership. In other words, the tenderer, the successful tenderer, earns revenue as the system runs and develops revenue. And that is extremely taboo and needs National Treasury's approval. And it appears to us they have not got that National Treasury approval. So there are too many red flags with this matter. And on top of that, the RTMC, the Road Traffic Management Company, that is responsible for NATIS, that where a lot of the administration feeding into the R2 system lies, are very capable and have in the past managed the system on behalf of RTIA. So why do you now want to go and outsource this when, yes, there may be some financial constraints, but those financial constraints need to be sorted out with the Department of Transport and Treasury, as opposed to outsourcing this into a public-private partnership.
In fact, are we any clearer, Wayne, as to what the successful bidder will be doing by way of a quote-unquote turnkey solution to design, build, and operate core ARTO systems? What systems are these? What exactly will they be doing?
Well, that's what we're not sure about. As you say, we're not clear. We've already got with RTMC a lot of the operating processes in place, the administration of this. It's there. So why are we going to now go and reinvent the wheel, start again afresh? I don't think, if that's the case, they won't build this within 6 months for a start. But, when they start to say, no, look, this is just, these guys are going to do the operational side of things and the development. Well, operational is the operative word. If you're going to operate the system, and that is your role as RTIA, the Road Traffic Infringement Agency, and the RTMC, who work together, why are you outsourcing this operations when you have the functionality and the competence, or you should have? It's like government just deciding it can't do anything on its own, so it just passes everything over the private sector, who profiteers out of this. We really need government to stop losing its competency to make sure it functions properly and to do this stuff. And it's doing this already largely. It just needs a little bit of capital to update the system to manage the whole new R2 process, which we've said, by the way, for a number of years now, that R2 is never ready, and it's failing as a result of this.
So ARTO is never ready. Just talk to that a bit more, because there was that December 1 deadline, and as you say, it was shifted by another 6 months or so. Will we be ready by the time we get to July, or are we now facing a debacle that's becoming more like the e-tolls?
Exactly. And this is what we keep telling and reminding government, is that you cannot just legislate competence into place. You can't pass a law, which is what they did in e-tolls and they're doing here, and say, oh, this is how it works, and now everybody just fall in line. If you don't have practically all the processes in place, the administration, and by the way, it needs to be enforceable, it needs to be simple, people must understand it and apply it. Then what happens is it becomes such a burden that it can't be implemented. And now you're trying to roll this out. So it's not only the public and the RTA and the government, but it's 240 or 50 municipalities and metros Now it becomes really complicated. And we don't believe that this scheme is ever going to get there because it is convoluted, it is complex, it relies on so many parts that need to be in place, and they're not there. So, you know, so it's not a case of ARTA saying there should be no infringement process. Of course, this whole demerit point system that works in a number of countries, but if you look at the administration and the processes that are in place in those countries to make it work, it's very different to here. I mean, you can clone number plates here. You can, I've always said, you can probably drive a vehicle that's unlicensed with a non-licensed driver, and it can be unroadworthy and probably never get caught in this country. That's not the case where these demerit point systems work in other countries.
Yeah.
You've got to have good administration.
All right, Wayne, thank you for your time. That's Wayne Duvenage, CEO of the organization Undoing Tax Abuse, OUTA. Let's go to Ann Musa. She's standing by with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, the Gauteng Portfolio Committee on Community Safety has expressed outrage over allegations that 27 of the 97 SAPS members accused of sexual violence nationally are from the province. The son of the late former Zimbabwean President Robert Mugabe and a co-suspect are expected to appear in the Alexandra Magistrates Court in Johannesburg this morning. And 6 people arrested in connection with the killing of an e-hailing driver are expected to appear in the Pretoria Magistrates Court this morning. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Well, our top story has been the disruption of traffic flow across the Tembisa area because of well-coordinated and widespread protesting this morning. Roads closed around Tembisa Mall, down towards the Kleurkop side, central Tembisa, up around the hospital and northern parts of the area as well. So a lot of congestion, a lot of delays as you arrive, find your road is closed, and you have to sort of work around a route that you may not know to sort of eventually try and exit out through Rabi Ridge. Routes on that side of Tembisa seem to be open, and where those routes are open, it is quite heavily congested. The N12, truck stuck at Craft Road, still there. It's slow, coming through from Boksburg down towards Craft Road rather than heavy. A lot of pressure through the Crown, the Mike 1 North, M2 West, those highways into the Crown up as far as Smith Street, looking pretty badly backed up. And the whole pile of traffic around Olifantsfontein Road this morning with lights down at the N1 and the Pretoria Main Road junction. So really busy whether you're driving in from Olifantsfontein or from the Blue Hills area. Stationary vehicle around Brakfontein Road, south of Brakfontein interchange. So you got another queue just building up on the N1 south into that. Durban, a stationary vehicle at Spaghetti Junction, N3 inbound, dreadfully heavy from Pavilion Mall territory. Also running south, a breakdown just after Umgena Road, so that's quite slow as well. Cape Town, the main road, both ways, reasonably heavy through Cork Bay, which is a bit unusual. Normally it's all one way going south in the morning, but not today. And the M3 from Wynberg Hill all the way through to Hospital Bend's really busy. Highways across Cape Town staying pretty heavy, including the N2 outbound with a crash at Spine Road in front of Khayelitsha, pushing a queue back towards R300. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, good morning to you. So Orlando Pirates have had a week they would rather forget. And they are hoping that the upcoming derby will help them do that.
Yeah, Tula, they are indeed. Well, you know what they say, a wounded Pirates is... a motivated Pirates team. But you know what? This Derby week is going to be a funny way of rewriting memory. And, one result on the weekend, suddenly it's not a bad week. So let's hope that it's a week. Yes, most Pirates fans would rather forget. But looking ahead now, which is what their coach is doing, they're hoping the Soweto Derby history works in their favor when they face Kaizer Chiefs this weekend. And the Buccaneers are reeling after that shock Nedbank Cup exit to Keswick Stars on penalties, their second defeat in 4 days. Let's go to the TS Galaxy coach Adnan Beganovic admitting he was stunned when he saw Mamelodi Sundowns had made 9 changes for their Nedbank Cup clash, but that surprise quickly became opportunity. Galaxy pressed high, exploited unfamiliar combinations, and took advantage of Ronwen Williams' absence to disrupt Sundown's build-up. 2 first-half goals sealed a deserved victory. Cricket now, we're still excited about the Proteas, and so is David Miller, saying the team's big takeaway from yesterday's 76-run T20 World Cup Super 8 win over India in Ahmedabad is simple, that they're beatable. South Africa ended India's 826-day unbeaten run in ICC events, with Miller top scoring on 63 before the bowlers ripped through the hosts. The Proteas now sit pretty in Group 1, with the West Indies next up on Thursday and Zimbabwe on Sunday. Formula One now. Ferrari have dominated Formula One's 2026 pre-season testing in Bahrain, unveiling a radical rotating rear wing and innovative diffuser concept that's already been cleared as legal by the FIA. Charles Leclerc topped the timing sheets, while Lewis Hamilton says he feels more aligned with the team. With strong long-run pace and improved tyre management, Ferrari may finally have built a genuine title contender ahead of the Melbourne opener. And finally, athletics. With no Olympic Games or World Championships on the calendar, 2026 gives South Africa's sprint star Akani Simbine a lighter schedule to map out his campaign. He's yet to confirm whether he will open or his 2026 season, whether it will be in Glasgow or the World Championships in China.
Right now we're taking a little like the build up to the season very slowly. It's, as you say, it's off year. It's a recovery year for most of us, and that's what we're trying to do. Just make sure we're recovering through the year. Competitions, we'll see what coaches plan for the year, but I'm just literally just taking it as it comes. It's a time for us to just recollate and figure the body out and sort the body out, because the next 3 years after this are going to be a championship year, so I need to be ready for that.
And that's your sport. John Gericke will be ready around 12:30 for more on SAFM. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
All right, let's turn to Ndawuleng Lechela for that update, the last update of the morning. Ndawuleng, good morning. The sugar industry is under the spotlight, what with all the developments at Tongaat Hewlett and other issues on the table.
That's right, Thulasizwe. The association, SA Cane Growers, has warned that South Africa's sugar industry is on the brink of a systemic collapse, with more than 1 million livelihoods at risk if urgent intervention is not secured. Another alarm follows the announcement of a provisional liquidation hearing for Tongaat Hewlett. Tongaat's mills serve as the primary processing option for about 18,000 growers. Should they shut down, an estimated 40,000 workers could face immediate job losses, threatening rural economies in KwaZulu-Natal and Mpumalanga. The sector is also under pressure from a surge in sugar imports and the ongoing impact of sugar tax. Now, SA Cane Growers has written to President Ramaphosa calling for coordinated government action to protect milling capacity, review import pricing, and reconsider the sugar tax.
And another industry under the spotlight is the gaming and gambling sector. Talk to me about government and these moves to curb gambling advertising.
So the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition is drafting new rules to curb gambling advertising, with regulations expected before July. The move follows pressure from politicians and industry players, which have been calling for stricter limits amid a surge in online betting. Now, proposals under discussion include tighter controls on advertising and sponsorships, stronger enforcement against illegal offshore operators, and clearer national oversight through amendments to gambling laws. The National Treasury, of course, has also proposed a 20% tax on gross gaming revenue. Research from Experian and Vault 22 shows a growing link between gambling and financial distress, with some low-income households spending up to 40% of gross income on bets. Major operators such as Hollywood Bets and Betway could face tighter restrictions as concerns mount over the social and economic impact of the aggressive marketing we've been seeing across platforms.
All right, Ndauling, let's wrap it up nicely. What kind of a trading day do we expect in the markets today?
So the JSE is in for a mixed open following international markets. It is a big week here at home with the national budget being tabled on Wednesday. Ahead of that, the rand retracing some losses, starting the new week on better footing, trading at 15.99 to the dollar this hour, 21.64 to the pound, and 18.92 to the euro. Oil remains range bound this morning, trading just under $70 a barrel. Focus remains on developments between Iran and the US. And then looking at Wall Street, futures in negative territory with concerns about tariffs weighing on sentiment. And lastly, in Asia, stocks are mixed, with investors remaining cautious and making sense of Trump's tariffs following the Supreme Court ruling on Friday.
Ndauling, thank you for that. That's Ndauling Lechela, having kept you updated on business, economics, and the markets.
The Magpies are bringing pace, intensity, and the electrifying home crowd in search of a win.
Jacob Ramsey has scored for Newcastle United for the first time. It's all going on.
On the other side, the Toffees are ready to elevate their game to rise to a much higher top half position.
Here he comes. Goal! Illuminati slots it in the bottom right-hand corner, and Everton lead at last by a goal to nil.
This is the Premier League. Newcastle United takes on Everton FC on Saturday 28 February at 4:30 p.m. live on SABC Plus and SABC 3. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable. You receive up to 745,000 rand worth of legal services per year. Our range of plans include cover for you, your spouse, children, and extended family. Plans include cover for civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Whether it's protection orders, gender-based violence, uncontested divorce, or poor service, your Clientele Legal lawyer will be there to assist you. Our services are convenient. Simply pick up the phone and call your lawyer or send us an email and we'll get back to you. All plans include a bail benefit of up to 5,000 rand and we'll go to the police station and pay it for you. Plus, Clientele Legal offers you 24-hour telephonic legal advice. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
This February, fall in love with the journey. No phones, no flights, just determination, connection, and the open road. From breathtaking landscapes to unexpected challenges. Race Across the World is back. Bigger, bolder, and more emotional than ever. Because sometimes the best way to find yourself is to travel together. Race Across the World Season 4, Thursdays at 6 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
18 minutes to 9. The Department of Communications and Digital Technologies remains in a state of uncertainty as it works to digitize the country and complete the long-delayed transition from analog to digital broadcasting. A 15-year digital migration process has been repeatedly stalled, most recently by a court ruling, while infrastructure backlogs, funding constraints, and socio-economic barriers continue to hinder universal access to digital services. The failure to ensure nationwide digital access threatens to deepen existing inequalities. Let's speak to Arthur Goldstock, tech expert and founder of Worldwide Works and Gadget magazine. Good morning to you and thank you for your time, Arthur. This is a process that was meant to meet a deadline by the ITU that passed 11 years ago. So much has happened around this story, all the litigation, the court cases, the issues around the rollout of set-top boxes, the digital switch, analog switch off, etc. So much so that not many of us know where we are on this path. Where are we on this path?
We're still on the road to almost nowhere, as
one song had it. And this goes back more than 16 years. It's actually back in 2009 that the government committed itself to transforming connectivity in this country. But the problem is they always tied that transformation of access to transformation of the industry itself. So there were always artificial ideological barriers put in place. And the result is that we've had more than 10 ministers of communication or equivalent thereof since then, and there hasn't been the ability of any minister to have continuity, but also ideology has got in the way. So we have this absurd argument that even though big tech giants can enter this country through something called equity equivalence, in other words, they invest in this country, the same doesn't apply in telecommunications. In telecommunications, the BEE rules apply. While there's good reason for that, it actually holds back the sector dramatically. And the attempt to bring telecoms into line with the general IT sector has been stalled by ideology. The current Minister of Communications, Solly Malatsi, has been trying to move that goalpost, so to speak, but he has run into massive resistance from an ideological perspective, which of course holds back the economy and keeps everyone down instead of looking at the best way forward.
As an element of that digital migration process, Arthur, how far are we with this issue of the analog switch off? It seemed to be gathering some pace until it ran into problems.
Well, the analog switch off is still part of the roadmap, and it is happening, but it's happening very slowly, and it should have happened, as you said, years ago. In fact, I think 2015 was the original deadline for that analog switch off, and that's become almost a joke. It's almost a suggestion rather than the idea that we can meet deadlines. The problem is people don't have the set-top boxes they need to access digital signals, and the attempts to roll those out haven't been spectacularly successful because, again, tying it into industry transformation. So we are going to sit with this for a while still.
And why does this matter? And I was just trying to think, Arthur, that for someone who doesn't know, the untrained eye, it may be that you and I are perhaps talking about a switch from analog TV to digital TV. You've in the past made the point that it's not just about TV. There's a lot more to this conversation and why we need to accelerate and get this process right.
Well, part of the reason is that we actually have to give everyone in this country access to the means of digital communications, which then becomes the entry ticket into the digital economy. And that involves data affordability as well as access to high-speed networks. It's all very well if we have coverage, but there's no point having coverage and people can't access that coverage. And especially outside of urban areas, you find that people who have lagged behind in the past lag behind even further. And this widens both the educational and the entrepreneurial gap. People wanting to do business online or wanting to learn how to do business by going online. And same with education. The ability to access educational material online is a critical aspect of this entire digital transformation concept.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for bringing us up to speed and sharing those insights with us. That's Arthur Goldstock, who is a tech expert, but also the founder of Worldwide Works and Gadget Magazine.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Very heavy coming into Galuli's N12 and R24 routes from Ekurhuleni. Heavily backed up this morning. Closer you get to the interchange, heavier it gets. The earlier breakdown at Craft Road on the N12 still there, but the big backlog has got through, so no longer an issue. Midrand under pressure. There's some roadworks going on around Olifantsfontein Road, just north of, on the old Joburg Road, just north of Olifantsfontein Road. Some roadworks there. It's really slow this morning. And then you've got a crash and faulty traffic lights on Olifantsfontein lane at the N1 and at Pretoria Main. So both of those lights are down, crash in the middle of all that, and it's very heavy. Big backlogs in that part of Midrand, particularly coming across from Blue Hills and Savannah Hills area. The R21 on your way to Pretoria, queuing quite heavily up into the roadworks opposite Clayville. And of course, Tembisa shutdown underway today. Lots of road closures, northern parts of Tembisa, central, southern parts towards Clearcop. Exits out through Rabi Ridge are very heavy because they're the only sort of routes out of the area that are open to the traffic flow, basically. Durban, the N2 coming south, still a breakdown just after Gene Road. Slow as you line up back through Inanda Road for that one. Breakdown at Ashburton, causing a bit of a slowdown on your way to Durban. Nothing drastic, but there will be a tap on the brakes and maybe a run through the lower gears. Cape Town, very heavy around Stickland this morning. Van Riebeeck Road out of Kales River, Strand Road out of Belleville, both directions towards the R300, very slow. And a crash on the N2 outbound in front of Khayelitsha. It's happened before Spine Road. That's pushing traffic queues back to the R300. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
Alcohol drowns our hope and fuels our pain. Our streets are flooded. Our families are breaking. Women and children are not safe. Alcohol kills 100 people in South Africa every day. For more information, visit www.truecostofalcohol.africa. Increase excise tax on alcohol.
Catch the season premiere of Color Your Plate this Sunday evening at 7 as 4 hungry home cooks step into the kitchen to reimagine beloved family favorites in bold and unexpected ways. With the return of a Sterling from a previous season judging their every move, only one will earn the chance to progress and cook alongside them in the next round. Who will impress and take the first step forward? Find out on Color Your Plate, Sundays at 7 p.m, repeat Saturdays at 4:30, only on SABC2.
Get Spar Super Savings at every store, in every aisle, every day. Like 900-gram Bacoma Wheat Bix for $52.99. Save 12 Rand. Or 200-gram Nescafe Gold Coffee Jar or 220-gram refill pack, excluding decaf, for $154.99. Save 35 Rand. Now that's super savings. Price is valid from the 23rd of February till 8 March, while stocks last. Only at Spar. T's and C's apply.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
All right, let's take some of your voice notes. Let me start with this one. Someone wants to talk about engaging in mercenary activity. They're terming it as overseas military jobs. Let's hear what that is about.
Good morning, Thulas. It's Mr. Suleiman. Thulas, these people who gave this contract for overseas military jobs, they should be the first one that should be investigated. They are not only involved in this type of contract, they are also involved in human trafficking and selling of human parts. These people must be taken out of this system completely, to us. They are a menace to the society. Thank you, bye.
And then let me play one that has to do with the situation at Tongaat Hewlett's and the imminent liquidation that the business rescue practitioners are going to apply for, and the concerns that we've covered on the show about what it means for the broader sugar and sugarcane industry.
Thulas, it's Chris in Camperdown. I see people largely in social media claiming the Nkosi Malosi Zondo, the Zulu Prime Minister, for approaching Robert Gumede on the Tongaat Hewlett deal. I think there's a lot, firstly, that we do not know. And secondly, this is not just a financial crisis. There's a lot that went on into the demise or the collapse of Tongaat Hewlett. And secondly, if you are going to resuscitate a ghost, it could be an exercise in futility. There needs to be a rethink and a recalibration and look at how can we repurpose the mills in terms of what the industry is needing now.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Chris. And I do plan to invite Amapungane Center for Investigative Journalism, because they did a nice deep dive into it. because it's a story that is so involved with so many layers and so many levels of detail that we will need to explain and expand. And I think we might want to do it perhaps more the day after and give it enough time for them to be able to help us and walk us through some of what they've been able to uncover in what the role of the Vision Sugar Group is in all of that. That's Robert Gumede's group. And this whole issue of buying the debt from the banks and then later on calling on that debt and how that triggered a series of events that led us to where we are. It will need time for it to be explained, for us to have an appreciation of how difficult it must have been or how easy, the situation has been around the business rescue processes, explaining it and walking us through all of that. So thank you for that. A lot of the other voice notes have to do with Herman Mashaba, the mayoral race for Joburg. So let me take a few back to back.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. Mashaba for mayor. Well, it's an easy question. How did he do in his previous term? There's the answer. If he did well, give him man another chance. But if it went backwards, I think that's a little bit silly.
Good morning, Thulas. You're speaking to Wedegas in Durban. I think the most fascinating thing about the race in Johannesburg, it's not, I think the story here is not the race between Mashaba and Helen. The bigger story is the absence of the ANC and their candidate. Who is their candidate in any case?
Yeah, but they're coming though, Welegaze. Give them time. They said they will announce. They generally don't like doing that, but in the past election cycles, the last few, I think the last 2 or 3, certainly for the big metros, they've broken with that tradition and have announced in advance. So let's see who they throw into the ring. Remember, you have Loiso Masugu now, who is the chairperson of the region. You might think, I'm not saying it's what's happening, you might think that there's preferred alignment between the political leadership of the region for mayor, of the province for premier, of the country for president. But you'd never know. They might just decide that they're going to break with that tradition. And when their candidate comes in, I suppose it will really make for an interesting dynamic in the already brewing competition for the mayoral chain of the city of Joburg.
Good morning, Thulas. Yeah, Les's analysis in Cape Town, he will get a shock of his life when Herman Mashaba emerges victorious in the city of Johannesburg, because the people of Johannesburg, they want change, and Herman Mashaba is the one who knows how to do that. And we are tired of the criminals that they have taken over our city. We want change. Someone who will be challenging these criminals and foreigners head on.
Yeah.
Learn on.
Thank you for that. The other element that Les, as good as his analysis was, going through the various regions and talking to various dynamics, I said to him he didn't factor in the MK party, didn't factor in the ANC, and was just largely confining himself to Action SA and the DA. The other element is Patriotic Alliance. Don't underestimate the Patriotic Alliance in the election cycles. I remember vividly from the last election cycle, the color coding from the IEC, those patches that represented the PA. I can't remember what the color was on the IEC code, but there are other players as well that will determine whether or not we end up with a situation of more coalition governance or we have an outright winner.
Morning, Bratulas. Herman Mashaba is like Jacob Zuma. He said he didn't finish his job. Even Ubaba Zuma, he said he didn't finish his job. Many wanted to destroy the country as well. Thank you, Ali Clayville.
All right, thank you. So you're clearly not a fan of the first term of Herman Mashaba as mayor, and therefore you don't agree that he should get another chance. So a few messages have come through about medical aid. Let me just hear what that is about. I know that there's an issue around GEMS, that is the Government Employees Medical Scheme, and the increases that have been announced there. But I wonder if this talks to that or other medical aid schemes.
Morning, Thulas. I'm a member of the Bonitas Medical Scheme, and I think it also went as high as 8 or 9% this year. But it's not a hullabaloo, because where I work, we've got about 5 medical aids to choose from. So if you're not happy with this one, you move to the other one. The challenge with GEMS is that people are only having GEMS and they don't have any other option.
Yo, where do you work? I want to work where you work, where you get a choice. Most employers don't give a choice. And in fact, this whole idea of medical aid subsidized by the employer is an idea that is receding. You're not seeing many employers doing exactly that. For my part, I long decided that medical insurance maybe actually works better for me than medical aid in this, in what do they call it? In Cyril's economy. In Cyril's economy, medical aid going up by 9.8%, and then going up a couple of months later around April as far as GEMS is concerned, and all the others also doing 8, 9. I'm not decided, guys. Medical insurance is for me, and it's working perfectly fine. That's where we have to leave it for today. Thank you for your engagement and for listening this morning. And Musa will give you the news at 9, and then after that, Kete Moshlahlana and the team taking over and bringing you the talking point. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane. You've been briefed.
In our top stories, Gauteng Safety Committee outraged over SAPS sexual misconduct allegations, and US states declare an emergency as snowstorm hits. Good morning. The Gauteng Portfolio Committee on Community Safety has expressed outrage over allegations that 27 of the 97 SAPS members accused of sexual violence nationally are from the province. The allegations are in the Police Watchdog IPID's 2024-2025 report. The committee says swift action must be taken against those found guilty of misconduct. Bandile Masuku is the chairperson.
We have already requested a comprehensive report, because we do usually get a report from IPID quarterly on the cases that they are dealing with. But on this one, we have asked for a comprehensive report that will cover all the actions and where the cases are. The investigations are ongoing. We just hope to see and get the progress on how far they are. And we do acknowledge that the IPID has got a very long list of backlog, and it's something that they have to prioritize these type of crimes.
The son of the late former Zimbabwean President Robert Mugabe and a co-suspect are expected to appear in the Alexandra Magistrates Court in Johannesburg this morning. Pellemin Mugabe and another man were arrested on Thursday last week following the shooting of a 23-year-old gardener at Mugabe's home in Hyde Park. The pair face charges of attempted murder. Police have not yet found the firearm used in the shooting incident. Security strategist Andy Mashele says the crime scene may have been tampered with.
Someone on the inside removed that firearm to ensure that the crime scene is contaminated. This is an intentional contamination of the crime scene to mess up the evidence so that the individual cannot be arrested by the police. This means that there is an intentional defeating the ends of justice.
6 people arrested in connection with the killing of an e-hailing driver are expected to excuse me, are expected to appear in the Pretoria Magistrates Court this morning. 22